Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free. You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church Fade to Black.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Fade to Black, the Thursday edition. How's everybody doing? Hope you're doing fantastic. Everybody listening, coast to coast, up and down, north to south, hither and thither, to and fro, far and near. Welcome, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. Today's Thursday, May 22nd. We're 136 days into the new year. And as always, we are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in sunny Burbank, California. Welcome. For KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's get this one cracking. It's going to be a good one tonight. Man, oh man. You know, I start off every show, started off with a salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight for us. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us. And you couldn't hear me right now, and I need you to think about that. You ready? You ready? We are. Let's go. Our dead guy birthday today is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Born in 1859, died in 1930 at the age of 71. He got a good one in there. 71 years back then. He lived it. He lived it large. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black and at JChurch Radio. You know what to do. I have my Twitter box right here in front of me, staring at me in the face. The studio is dark. Let's go. In the studio tonight, live with me, in front of me, is Preston Dennit, stuffing his face with pizza as we speak. He's been instructed to eat and finish his pie before I turn on his microphone. How you doing, Preston? Everything good?
Everything's great.
See, he's there. I just turned it back off. That was in between shoes. Tonight, we're going to try to take some calls. I do want to hear from everybody. We've got a big show tonight. Big show. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everything's blown up, so jump in. Over on Twitter, don't forget, hashtag DM Radio Net, so you can participate in that little tweet chat box that we got going on. All right, follow, like, subscribe, friend, do what you got to do. You're over on Dark Matter Radio right now. You're there. Scroll up and do some clicking. That's what you do. I ask. It's funny. Every night, Preston, I say the same thing. You know, and I get like 2 new Twitter followers. Thousands of people listening to the show, and I get 2. But they're good. It's 2 that count. You know, it's 2 that count. All right. Email throughout the show, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can do that over on the website. Just go over to the contact page. You know where to go. It's right there where we use special NSA encrypted computers and servers. Okay, so if you want to do it in confidence, everything, as you know, goes through the producers here at the studio. Okay? Rita, Mark, Kovar, Hilton. You got to pierce the veil before it gets in here to me. Now, we have a big show. We have so much that we need to pack in tonight that I'm not going to do the news. No. Got too much to do tonight. The breaking story on the Malibu deep underwater base, which is is doing what it should and as expected on the net, and potentially seriously, one of the biggest stories to break in ufology in a long time. And you have to go back to maybe Area 51, maybe Rendlesham, Roswell. You are going to remember this show, the past week's shows, everybody that's been involved, and you will remember this day. You will remember it. This is a big, big deal. Every researcher in ufology, everybody that's ever written a book, has got a chapter on the USOs and the lights that have been off of the coast of California and off the coast of Malibu for years, decades. It's all over the place. But and Preston said this before the show. He's like, Jimmy, this is the smoking gun. This is a book in itself. And I'm sure that is going to be your next book, huh? And it's exciting to be part of this and to see what has gone on the net today and the emails and everybody coming back. And I just dig it. And again, I'm humbled and honored just to be smack dab in the middle of it. And so Preston, who has written so many books on the subject, a native of Southern California, and he has spoke to literally hundreds and hundreds of witnesses along the coast, written specifically about USOs. Preston has done, at least one show on USOs that I know about on History Channel, and it's a big subject. And this is, like Preston said, this could be the smoking gun. It's a crazy thought, but that's where we are now with this story. So now that I've set that up a little bit, everybody, over at jimmychurchradio.com, we have a bunch of new stuff up. So go over to the website and check out what we have for you tonight to follow during this show. First off, you go right there, you go to the story, massive deep underwater base discovered off Malibu. Then we have our update right below it. It's in red. Can't miss it. Now we have how deep it is from the surface. We've got all of those measurements to the top of the roof of the structure all the way to the seafloor. So that's in. Below that, we have the 9 pictures of the panoramic view going from south looking north all the way down to the 9th picture, our picture number 9, which is north looking south. Okay, now, if you scroll down past everything, there's Preston's gallery for tonight. We will be discussing that. This covers his research on the undersea, the USOs off of Malibu, going back, I don't know, Preston, 30 years? Probably 30 years you've been doing this?
Yep, just about.
Yeah, 30 years of research on this subject. And then below that is another gallery. And we're going to get to this tonight, too. And it says, for your consideration. And we received email this morning, and this is how the story is blown up. I can't tell you. I've been up all day answering emails and phone calls about this. And this is one of the emails that came in today, was this young lady. Her name is Lori Conley. And she contacted us, and these are, right here, these are her original. She sent us the original files off of her cell phone and off of her camera. I don't know what she was shooting with her camera, but it must have been like 150 megapixel, 150 million megapixel. I don't know, because the file sizes were 30 megabytes each. But so that's what this collection is down in the bottom gallery. And they're absolutely insane. And where you see the lifeguard shack, the lifeguard hut, right beyond that, right out there, that's Point Doom. Right out there is where the USO, the entrance to the base is. And that's where all these photographs were taken. We've got literally hundreds of examples like this over the last week. They have just been pouring in. So with that, it's going to be a great show. That's the setup. Now, after we get this out of the way with Preston, I'm going to talk Preston into hanging out with us for a little while longer. because we're going to have Steve Allen in from the Stevenville Lights in Texas, the pilot that was the witness. And then we'll write out the rest of the show. I would like for Preston to hang out with us and talk to Steve too as well. So you send us the email and talk Preston into staying, and I'm sure he will. All right. This is Fade to Black, the Thursday edition. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the Dark Matter Radio Network, Twitter at JChurchRadio, hashtag DMRadioNet, Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com is the email. Fade to Black 14 is Skype. Call-in number is 323-825-5045. It's the Thursday edition, Bell Gab, and I'll be back right after this. Do not touch that mouse. Be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. Mike Wood, I see you calling in. Give us a second. I'll pick up. Got to run the music, man. Fade to Black, the Thursday edition. Live in the studio with Preston Dennit. It's going to be a great night, everybody. Later on, Steve Allen. Tomorrow night, Michael Tellinger. Next week, Blake Cousins, Joshua P. Warren going to be in the house. It's going to be really cool. All right. Let's get to it. We got so much to do tonight. I don't know how we're going to pack everything in, but I'm going to try to. Let me grab this call really quick. Just came in. Hey Mike, where are you calling from?
I'm in Southwest Oregon.
Yeah, turn down the radio, Mike. That's the rules on the radio, brother.
Down, I can't hear you.
Okay. Oh, you can't hear me?
I'm in Southwest Oregon.
Okay. Yeah, turn down the radio. You're listening to the radio. You're not listening to me.
I don't have a radio on, just my monitor speaker.
Yeah, turn that down. I can hear myself. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, exactly. Mike, you're listening to two things. So just listen to me. Okay, Mike, you got to get that figured out and give me a call back, all right? Give us a call back. Yeah, exactly. Mike, you're listening to two things. We got a delay there. All right. That's what happens when, they don't get it. You got to turn down the radio, the computer. Got to turn that down because that's on a delay. All right. Welcome, Preston. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing amazingly well. Now, for everybody out there, this is Preston Dennit. I don't know. I don't have any idea how many dozens of books you have authored. I'm not going to embarrass you right now and ask you, but But an amazing author, amazing researcher, guest of the show, friend of the show. Welcome. Thank you for coming in on such short notice, too, as well. I had called, I'll let everybody know, this is what happened. I called after everything went down with the discovery of the base off of Malibu. Every researcher that we talked to, Bill Burns and Jim Mars and Brad Olson, and I'm trying to think who else was on the show last week, Steve Murillo, Daryl Sims, everybody that I talked to about this brought up Preston's name. And have you talked to Preston? It's going to blow his mind. Have you told Preston about this? This is it. This is what we've been waiting for all these years. It's finally here. Can't believe it. Have you talked to Preston? And every day, and I was like, man, I got to call. So I called Preston last week, and I go, Preston, when's your birthday? He goes, 2 weeks ago. I said, well, I've got your belated birthday gift right here. And I'm going to front Preston off right now. I'm just going to put it out there. So I said, we discovered a base off of Malibu. Turn on your computer. I'm there. Go to my website. I'm there. Look at that. What? And all Preston could say is, I told you. I've been telling you. I told you, man. But how did it feel to finally see this after all the books and all the research and interviews? How'd it feel?
Oh, are you kidding? I got chills for one thing. I'm like you said, I knew it. I knew there had to be something down there. And to see this, it was really vindicating, really. Because I've been talking to so many people who'd seen this stuff, and this is the exact area. And I knew it had to be massive, and there it was. I mean, my God.
Right.
I was speechless, honestly.
Right.
Which is difficult for me. That's not normal for me.
Well, and it feels good for me to get the and not only myself, but Maxwell and Dale and the other guys that have been involved with this, and Ken Pfeiffer jumped in on it too from MUFON. Thank you, Ken, by the way, for your work too as well. But to get the feedback that I've gotten from everybody, the phone calls and the email from some pretty big people in this business, all calling me and saying the same exact thing. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. And this is the other thing. Before we get to the photographs, and I want you to, talk about some of your experiences out there on the coast, but it doesn't matter really how old it is or what it is and so forth. In that, and what I mean by that is this: it could be thousands of years old. It could be 100 years old. It could be 50 years old. None of that really matters. What matters is it's there, and nobody's been talking about it. And what? Let's just suppose. Let's take USO out of it for a second. But what if it is some kind of ancient temple from some lost civilization that was built, 11,000 years ago before the Ice Age, when Malibu Beach, or where this water is, was dirt and trees and sunshine. What if it's that? It could be anything, but I can tell you what it isn't. It's not natural. That is not a natural formation of any kind, of anything. So that's the point of this discovery. It could be anything, but whatever it is, it's extraordinary and explosive. And it's just great to hear everybody's reaction from it, from around the world. We've had just about every country, except for parts of Africa, but just about everywhere, from Japan to Norway, Denmark, and the United Kingdom, and Australia, all over the United States and Canada. Everybody is shocked and hopeful too as well.
Yeah, I am shocked, but I'm not surprised. I have to tell you, there's been so much activity in this area, and there's underwater activity throughout the world, but not like here. And this is probably one of the hottest spots in terms of USO activity. And to see this thing, and to see that it's so obviously, artificial. There's not just one or two things about this thing that is unusual. I mean, there's half a dozen at least that just leap right out at you.
Right.
And that's just at first glance.
Right. And you know what's what else is fascinating? I'm going to open it up the pictures too. Everybody, just go over to Jimmy Church Radio and let's go over to the website and let's talk about some of these pictures, Preston, and what stands out for you and what stands out for me. But if you go to picture number, I'm just going to grab one. Let's grab picture number 2, which is, in the tic-tac-toe setup, it would be the middle one in the top row, and it's labeled number 2. Now, when you look at this picture, this is what is shocking about this. It's not the structure itself. It's everything around the structure. It's the other pillars that, it's some kind of support berm or something that's holding the dirt up. It's how flat and level everything is out in front of it, and how it leads up to it. And then you see the structure itself sitting there independent, and you can see that. But then look at what's around it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't match the topography. It doesn't match anything. It's not a continuous line. It's unnatural. And that, to me, when you look at this, it's one thing to see the structure because your eyes are drawn to it, but then look what's around it, and that's the fascinating part. And the size of it, that's another thing. And how about you? When you look at this picture, what do you see?
Yeah, well, first of all, like you say, when you look around it, there's nothing that is flat like that. It looks like it was placed there. You can see on the right side there's a sort of a divide there, a black line and these huge pillars and this entrance. And I mean, there's numerous things about this that really leap right out at you. And
I was earlier today, because this popped up on dozens and dozens of websites. It seemed like all at once. And so I was, jumping around looking at forums to see what other people were commenting and saying about it. And this one poster had said, it's too oval. It's not natural. It's too oval. It's too perfect. And he was like, and this particular poster wasn't even using our picture. He went and found it himself, because what was posted in the article is this picture here, right? Or one like it. And his reaction in the forum, which was so classic, it was so cool. I found it myself. It does exist. It's really there. And it's too oval. And I was like, exactly.
right, I can't tell you how many photos I've seen where you think, oh, it's ambiguous. You can't really tell what you're looking at. This is so obvious.
Right.
I mean, so flat on top. It's a perfect structure. The pillars, the lines around it, the flat surface before in front of it.
Yes.
And
yes.
this thing is so massive.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I don't know how big it is inside this thing, but I would imagine it is just gigantic.
Gigantic. And I was reading an article earlier today in doing some research, but about a couple of underground rivers that start over in the Mojave and come back, and people have been trying to traverse those and see where they enter the Pacific, or if they do. And I just thought, wow, isn't that a weird coinkydink? That's kind of bizarre. Could it be? I don't know. But, I have the feeling we're going to find out. And the other thing that is fascinating for me is, now that the cat is out of the bag, when is it going to get blacked out on Google Maps? Now, we have tons and tons of pictures. We've got everything archived. Everything's cool. Everything's done. But how quick will it be, how soon till it's not there at all? Right now, everybody listening to me right now, you can go to Google, go to Point Doom, okay. Let's see if Mike here has got his computer situated. Mike, are you with us? Do you have your? Can you hear us now?
To me right now, you can go to Google, go to Point Doom.
Mike,
okay. Let's see if.
Mike, you're backwards. You need to turn down your computer.
Situated, Mike.
Yes.
Are you with us? Do you have your?
Mike.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, Mike. No, you can't. You're not listening to me. You're listening to the delay.
You're backwards. You need to turn down your computer. Mike, are you with us?
Okay. All right. I can't. Mike, listen to me. This is a delay. Everybody is listening right now. So listen, Mike, you can't listen to your computer. You need to have headphones on if you're going to do something like that because you're listening to a delay. I'm speaking 10 seconds in front of you. Okay, now back to this. The update is this. Everybody had, I saw this 100 times. And everybody that's out there reading about this knows the comments that have been out there. How deep is it? What is that measurement? So we have it. The measurement from the surface of the water to the top of the structure is 450 meters or 1,476 feet. From the surface of the water to the surface below the pillars, okay, you got that, is 700 meters or 2,296 feet. And that is big. Now, so when you're looking at the overall height of the structure, it's huge because each column is between 600 and 630 feet tall. And the feedback, and I thank everybody that has said, I'll go scuba dive, I'll volunteer, let's go, let's get a boat. I got a boat, I'm certified, let's go. Well, it's deep, and so just to get to the roof, the top of the roof is 450 meters down, almost 1,500 feet. And what is that? That is a quarter of a mile. Doesn't seem that far, but it's far, and it's too far to dive. And I'm assuming that it's too far to dive. So there you go. Now those are the updates. And I wanted to get down, Preston, if you don't mind. You're the guest, and again, thank you for coming in. And when was I know basically how you started your career and how it happened. One of the stories that you told me, which I thought was interesting, was one of the first UFO incidents that you had encountered was in Santa Monica, wasn't it? And you went down with somebody else, and you were in downtown Santa Monica. Did you guys go all the way to the beach, or was it in town?
If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's just down right there in town.
Right. And that was facing west out over the ocean when you said that he pointed to the sky and said he's right there.
Right.
Right? So was he pointing west? Was he pointing northwest?
He was pointing over the ocean area,
right.
Actually, yeah.
Was he pointing over where this base is?
Generally a little bit to the left of it, but right in that general area.
That general area. And so now, that when I ask you what was your first experience, that to me, even though it wasn't a USO, but it's still right there where everybody's been seeing these,
exactly,
for years. Tell us about your first USO witness that you interviewed.
Oh boy, there's so many. Right when I started doing this research, I started getting accounts from the coastal area. I would say one of the first involved a therapist by the name of Linda. And she was driving with her friend, and she noticed this object floating on the water. And there was something unusual about it. And she thought, well, it's not a boat. It didn't look like a boat. But what else could it be? It was very bright. And she just pointed it out to her friend. And at that exact moment, this thing took off straight up out of the water and several hundred feet up into the air, maybe 1,000, and disappeared. It wasn't a firecracker. It wasn't anything, a missile, or obviously not a plane or a helicopter. It was something very unusual. And that was just one of the first reports I got, and really impressed them both that this was something that was unexplained.
Mike Woods calling in again. Should we try Mike one more time? Hey, Mike. Oh, man, I'm not going to do this all night. Mike, are you there? Okay, Mike, we're going to try this one more time, man.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
How's
Now,
that
see,
sound?
now you're there. Where are you calling from, Mike?
I'm in Southwest Oregon.
Southwest Oregon. We were talking about Oregon right before the show. Now, isn't that funny? So, what's going on tonight, Mike?
Well, I just happened to stumble onto this yesterday. Was it Justin? Is that his name?
Uh-huh.
Ask him what he knows about the voyage of the USS Nautilus.
Oh, you mean Preston? I'm sorry, Preston. Yeah, he's
Preston,
right. Yeah,
yes.
he's right in front of us. The USS Nautilus. What's the question about the Nautilus?
What does he know about the voyage?
Do you know anything about the voyage?
I'm not sure. I need more information. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about.
Okay.
I can't hear him. So.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem. I'll turn him up. So, what is it about the Nautilus that you're curious about?
Okay. Well, when the Nautilus normally in the Atlantic, they came through Panama,
right,
to go up to go under the ice cap.
Uh-huh.
Okay. They did a practice drill, and the info I got was back in the 60s. Just north of San Diego, they went underneath the landmass through a honeycomb maze of tunnels.
Right.
And clear about 50 miles east of Indio.
50 miles east of Indio, inland?
Yes. And then they came back out through underneath San Bernardino.
Now, I don't know if you caught what I was saying earlier in the show, but I was reading today about the maze of underwater rivers under Southern California.
Well, there's in geology, there's an underground river that comes clear across the continent. It's about the size of the Columbia River.
Right. Is there a name for it? Do you know?
They don't really know where they go in and out, but it runs up and down like a snake and north to south like a snake.
Right.
So it's really hard to locate it.
Well, again, and
when the Nautilus got in about east of Indio, they had to start trimming ballast real quick because they started hitting a lot of fresh water.
I'm writing all of this down. I'm gonna find out. I want to find out about the Nautilus trip in San Diego.
Well, I searched it a lot on the Nautilus and tried to find the ship's navigation log. Under the Freedom's Information Act.
Okay.
And hopefully it's not all blacked out.
Yeah, right. Of course. Well, thank you for that. And this is part of what we're looking into with this discovery. Is could it be used for submarines? Could it be used for our bases? Could it be used for China Lake and the Hawthorne Naval Deep Sea Warfare Center up in Nevada, and the other inland naval stations that we have here in the United States? So can this connect to those? That's the first thing. The second. With all of this USO activity that has been going on off of the coast for decades.
Oh, it's tremendous.
Yeah, tremendous. And,
off the east end of Puerto Rico.
Well, that too, as well.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's been looking for this type of entrance and exit. It's both for years, and it's pretty exciting, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Now, back in '72, I was sitting at a lunch counter. I'm driving truck at the time, and I just struck up a conversation, and we got onto UFOs, and he says, "Oh, well, there's a base up there in the Puget Sound that they keep coming out of."
It's the same thing, and we have all the witnesses of what has been coming and going, but we haven't been able to find the base itself. And it looks like we've got it, Mike. Hey, listen.
Well, the base, there's many of them.
Yes, I know. And this will be the first one. This will be the first one. So
take down at Mazatlan.
That one too. Yes.
It's become a tourist attraction.
Well, and there's also the other one that's up near Carmel. That's another one that everybody's been talking about too.
Yeah.
So, well, enjoy the show, Mike. I'm going to look into the Nautilus and check back in with this tomorrow night, and I'll see if I can get something for you.
You'll probably have to do a Freedom of Information Act application.
Well,
and you just want to look for the ship's navigation log.
that's not a problem. And with all of our listeners and researchers that listen to this show, you watch. We'll get some email before the end of the night. Okay?
I just want to tell you, I got this information. My dad was Navy and back in '44. He had above top security.
Right.
And he stayed Navy Department his whole life. And when the Nautilus made its voyage, he said, "Oh yeah, it's just, they went underneath the land there." And,
well,
I
I also have a couple of nautical books. One of them is called Run Silent, Run Deep, which is all about every submarine that was ever built. And it tells a story about each one. So I'm a fan of it, and I will check it out. You have a good night, Mike, and enjoy the rest of the show.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. And, I have no doubt that the military is aware of this. They have to be.
They have to be.
Point Magoo Naval Base, I know that they are, because they're right near here. And I've got, stories coming out of there from people who say absolutely they know about it.
Like who?
Well, these are secondhand stories from a person's brother or a person's friend who worked there. There was one story involving two divers, actually, who were diving off the coast right in this area and taking pictures. And these Navy divers showed up and confiscated their cameras and kicked them out. And they were not in a restricted area, mind you. They were doing something that was absolutely legal, but the Navy would not have it. And they're like, get out. And another report from a person who has a friend who works at the base says that they absolutely do know about these underwater USO activity, and they're very concerned about it.
It's funny how they could threaten to kick somebody out up there or have something restricted when it's all touristy up and down the beach. But then for, all the way up to Zuma on the north side of Malibu, north of where these pictures are, but it's all movie stars, nice homes. And if it's not a movie star in a nice home, then it's an okay home, but it's a beach that's packed for miles and miles and miles. But in the middle of all of this, you've got the Marine Corps station there, you've got the Navy base, and it's right in the middle of everything. And that's yeah, you're right. That's an absolutely strange thing. And because are you going to tell a tourist not to swim in the water? You know what I mean? And one of the got tons of tweets that have come in. I'm going to get to those in a second. I want to direct everybody back over to jimmychurchradio.com really quick. Go down to to Lori's gallery before we got that phone call. Lori Conley sent us this email, and she allowed us to go ahead and use the pictures, and she had said, and I have the email right here. It says, I have filed 3 MUFON reports regarding Point Doom. Report number 55297 from March of 2014. Report number 5305 from September 2nd, 2012. And report number 55445 from September 7th, 2013. All of those dates that I just read off to you are the dates from these 3 sets of pictures, okay? And as you can see, Point Doom State Beach, 1:41 and 1:42 p.m. on September 2nd, 2012. The picture is right below that, Point Doom State Beach, August 18th, 2013 at 3:55 p.m. And then right below, Point Doom, September 7th, 2013. Now, everybody listening to my voice right now, go to the top 2 pictures, the top 2 in this entire set. You see the go to picture number 1 or number 2, doesn't matter. I'm opening up number 2. It's a panoramic view of the beach. And if you've ever been there with that famous cliff down there, which every beach movie ever made in the 50s was shot right here on this beach with the cliff there. But look straight out into the water, past right above the lifeguard shack. You see the USO popping out of the water. This is a huge panoramic, large megapixel shot. This is the original. You can see it popping out of the water. Now, this is what's crazy. Right where it's coming out of the water and right where that guard shack is, right out there, that's exactly where this base is. 100%. And if you go, so now go to the next picture, which is the crop. And there's 2 crops there. One is from each one of her pictures. And look at this thing coming out of the water. You can see the water behind it and the top one. You can see the water and the little bursts and the little smoke. And then look at the one below it. Look at that. And what do you make of that? And that is, that's miles out to sea, probably 2, 3, 4 miles out there. But there it is coming out exactly where this entrance is. Now, when I was talking to Keith before the show and talking to him about pictures like this that have been taken for decades, right here, but nobody ever found the base. And Preston, how do you? Really, when you look at this, and now you know what you know, and you're looking at what you're looking at, you're one of the leading researchers, my brother, in this game. You're one of the most respected. How does this make you feel? Is it trippy? Is your skin, your hair standing?
all of those things. Having put this puzzle together for so many years, piece by piece, witness account by witness account, and then to see this, all these photographs, this base. Come on. You reach a point where you just can no longer deny that this is real. How many reports do you need? 10 or 20? I could ignore those, but we're looking at a couple of hundred reports from people all up and down the coast.
The next set of pictures down, which is Point Doom, September 7th, 2013, and then Point Doom on March 2nd, 2014. These are lights moving around behind the clouds. And these are bizarre shots. And if you go to either one, if you go down to the lower left-hand corner and look at this panoramic shot with this weird light moving around behind the clouds, and that's crazy. And you look at everything else that's up there, and then there's this light, and that's what she was photographing. And if you go to the next picture, which is to the right of that, look at that. That's crazy. And that is exactly where the base is. What is it? I don't know, but it's in the clouds. Now, as you notice, there's 2 sets of clouds here. There's a cloud formation above, then the cloud formation below. And the cloud formation below has got this light that's moving around inside of the clouds. And that's another crazy, crazy shot. But what's fantastic about this shot, right below it is the base that's been discovered. Absolutely fascinating. Now let's go to your picks. And everybody, go to Preston Dennit's gallery. It's right above Lori's. And Lori, if you'd like to call into the show, I know that you're listening right now, 323-825-5045. I would love to talk to you. And especially while Preston is here, Preston would like to talk to you. He's been looking at your pictures all afternoon. So, again, Lori, if you're out there, 323-825-5045. Okay, Preston, tell us about picture number 1.
All right, yeah, this is actually on the East Coast, the East River over New York. And when I started doing this USO research, things just kind of snowballed. I wasn't really looking for USOs in particular, but as the accounts began to mount, I wrote an article about it for Fate magazine, and this ended up, attracting the attention of the History Channel, and we did deep sea UFOs. So I started getting reports from all across the world. And this particular case is a photograph of taken by a landscaper, actually, who noticed some activity in the river, whipped out his camera, and took a series of 5 photographs. And this is the best one, which clearly shows this object coming up out of the water and darting away. And what's interesting about it is, New York has a lot of USO activity. Upstate New York has a lot of USO activity in these little reservoirs, tiny little bodies of water. Not a whole lot of, these aren't very large bodies of water. And yet these USOs are all over inside these things. So my point is, these USOs are not just in the ocean. They're in rivers. They're in little tiny reservoirs. They're in lakes.
Hudson Valley?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hudson River Valley?
It's another huge hot spot. And I
Right.
think part of the reason is they're hiding underwater.
Right. Let's go to your next picture because I have another question. which is where you see them above the water doesn't necessarily mean that's where they are coming from. For instance, with this entrance that we have found, off of Malibu, it doesn't mean that anything is popping up out of the water right there. It could go 20 miles over the horizon
Easy.
and then leave the water. That's why you don't have to sit there and expect it to, as soon as it pulls out, if it is indeed what it is. They're not pulling out of there and then cruising up straight up into the air. They could go anywhere in the ocean.
Yeah,
they could go anywhere. They could pop out in Hawaii.
Exactly. You have to remember how the technology of these things is way beyond ours. We don't have anything officially, I'll say, that can fly around in the air, then dive into the water at 200-300 miles an hour without making a splash.
Right.
Then come back out of the water. We have nothing that can do that.
Nothing.
And these things can, and they are clocked going underwater very, very fast, faster
Right.
than anything that we have.
Right. Have you ever spoken to anybody in the Navy about things that they've seen under the water?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been contacted by a number of Navy people, and I heard some very, very interesting stories, not only from this area, but, from all across the world.
Okay. Well, let's start with this area. Have you talked to anybody in the Navy from here?
Yeah, I haven't gotten a lot of, what I would call underwater reports, but I've definitely some where they're on the water. And one really interesting case for me involved a ship that was pretty much put on high alert because they saw these lights in this exact area, mind you. They were right off the Catalina on the ocean side.
Right.
And there were these massive lights, and the whole ship went on alert. And this guy that I spoke with, he ran up to the bridge and said, do you guys have this on radar? And they're like, no, it's not appearing on radar, and we don't know what these are.
Right.
And these lights hung around for a long time, and they were much, much brighter than anything around.
And you said that you've spoken to from another area where they saw things under the water?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of cases. One that comes to mind is a gentleman who is off the coast of Florida, and he has been done a lot of boating, and he's actually had at one point a submarine come surfacing right next to him, so he knows what he's talking about. And he saw these massive beams of light. They were blue beams of light, and they were traveling for a huge distance underwater. And he's like, where are these coming from? And he saw that they were kind of circling around, rotating, and coming closer to his boat. And what's really interesting is it basically targeted his boat. This thing came from a random direction, came and stopped right under his boat. He's estimating maybe 200-300 feet down, was much, much larger than his actual boat, which is, a small boat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it stopped. It stopped there.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't frightened, and nothing occurred to his boat, which is actually pretty rare. I've got a number of cases where boats completely malfunction. The electrical system will go down, the compasses start spinning, and things like this. That I've heard of, several times.
When you did your special for History Channel, when you started to put that together, I remember you guys were theorizing at the time that there was a deep channel in between Catalina and Marina del Rey, and that was the possibility of where you guys thought the base was because
Right.
there was a lot of video. A lot of photography, a lot of eyewitnesses.
Well, not only that, a submarine navigator contacted me, and he says, oh, yeah, we go up and down the coast, and there's this very deep ridge that goes all the way up to the Monterey Trench in Northern California, which is actually very, very deep. And he says, oh, there's plenty of places for these things to hide. And I got the feeling that he had seen something and wanted to talk about it, but was really reluctant to do it.
Well, yeah, how do you say something like that without meaning something? I mean, there's not really a hidden message there.
He was talking around it.
Yeah, right.
He wanted to say, I could tell. You've done enough
Wow.
interviews when people are trying to tell you, but they can't.
Right. And now back to the special. How many witnesses did you guys talk to during the USO taping?
Oh, we talked to a number of witnesses. Most of what you saw on the show, we were there for 3 days. We talked to a lot of people. I brought in 4 or 5 witnesses who agreed to come onto the show.
Right.
But most of it ended up on the cutting room floor, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
You know how TV is. They've
Right.
got their little sound bites.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't get to really tell the whole story, and they actually brought us back for a repeat show, Deep Sea UFOs 2. And, we still couldn't. We still were only able to touch the tip of this iceberg. I mean, there's just so many accounts.
Could you imagine doing that show, though, both of those shows back then, with this information right now?
Oh, there's got to be someone out there going, chomping at the bit, saying, "Oh, we have got to get this out."
Right.
And I'm glad that you did it, because this is amazing, and this is, like I said earlier, this is kind of a smoking gun event.
Yes, and I had said last night on the show, and I'm a little apprehensive, a little bit talking about it, at least in the beginning, because I don't know what kind of reaction I'm going to get out of people.
Well, the cat's out of the bag.
Well, now it's out of the bag.
Right.
So the other night, I'm over at Steve Murillo's UPARS thing with Daryl Sims, and they had me get up there and talk about it. So I put the picture up. Well, I didn't. The audio visual guys, and they've got that up on the big screen. And I get up there, and it had been up there for about 5 minutes before I went up on stage. But so I get up there, and once I started telling everybody, because there was there's 150 people there. It's packed, and I'm just like, I wonder how they're going to react. And it just turned out they were just, the only word I can think of is just stunned, looking at everybody and having everybody come up to me afterwards, oh, wow, whoa, and there, I'm starting to feel a little more at ease. I don't want to be that guy that I look at strange. I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I feel confident, and I feel confident in what the guys have uncovered here and the way that the research has been done. I feel confident about it, and pictures, speak for themselves. I'm pretty confident. It's the message, you're really, but it is what it is, and I'm feeling more confident as the time goes by. I haven't had anybody say that it's not. I haven't had anybody say. I haven't had one person, not one, say that it looks natural.
Right. Well, the evidence speaks for itself. And if you're a skeptic, if you're a doubter, go ahead. I dare you. I challenge you to investigate this stuff and try to disprove it. And I think you'll be really surprised, because the evidence points towards its existence. It's, not just this base that we're looking at that is, caused me to conclude that there's a base. I already knew there was a base before seeing this stuff.
Right. And, can you imagine going under the water down there in a submarine with, spotlight, floodlight, and cruising past whatever it is, 600-foot tall columns?
Oh, it's got to be
It's got to be huge.
Majestic. And
yeah. 2,000 feet wide.
Well, I've had a number of people contact me saying there are tunnels. And this is from different independent sources, saying there's a tunnel that leads from Edwards to Catalina Island to Area 51.
Right.
So I don't know if this is the actual one that they're talking about.
Right.
But, it's entirely possible.
Well, that's exactly it. This has been rumored, that connection between Area 51, the Pacific Ocean, to Hawthorne, to China Lake, that all of these are connected, and we've all seen maps of, from Philip Schneider, and whether it's legit or not, and other guys out there too as well. I don't want to say Richard Sauter, out loud, but I just did. From other researchers that have been talking about this for a long, long time. And it's one thing to listen to them and try to understand and try to comprehend the message and the theory that they're trying to, put out there, but there's no entrance and there's no exit anywhere. So it's just all talk until then. So you want to grab another call?
Sure.
Yeah, let's see who's calling. All right. You're live on the air. Who's calling?
This is Robert Stanley. Hi, is this Jimmy?
Yes, Robert. How are you, sir?
Well, good. Did my name come up already?
Any
chance with Preston?
Preston's right in front of me.
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Hey, Preston, it's Robert Stanley. How are you?
Great. It's great to hear from you. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing well, thank you. So I'm listening to your show. You guys, this is very interesting.
Yeah, you were one of the first guys who was talking about this stuff way back in the day. You were one of the first researchers. Bill Hamilton, Ann Ruffle, you.
Hey, check this out, Robert. Right before the show, we were talking about you.
Yeah, I figured as much, because just behind the plateau is where the ancient ruins I discovered back in 1985.
We were just talking about that, Robert, and I
Right.
thank you for calling in. But that I know your ears were burning, and thank you
That's
for that.
okay.
But
Somebody else alerted me that this was going on. I'm looking at your articles and the photographs. It's very interesting.
so, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that years ago, and I've been sharing it with different people, including Mr. Parsons, and I think he must have sent it to you. So I'm not the only one who's seen the UFOs at that location. There was a surfer that actually at that location that saw something come out of the water. They're clearly operating there. Right?
Oh, I think we lost you. Are you still there, Robert? You got cut off. Give us a call right back.
Figures.
Oh, there you are. There you are. You see?
Yeah, okay. No, I figures. I was just saying that I've seen plenty of UFOs at that location. Other people have too, and it just happens to be right next to Point Magoo Naval Base. So,
that's right.
And obviously ever since they put the base in there, they've had sightings visually as well on radar. A lot of times their radar systems have been completely overloaded. All the circuits have melted because of the UFO activity right there.
And what's funny is on this show specifically, there have been dozens and dozens of people that have sat here and talked about, not only guests but callers, about what they have seen between Marina Del Rey and Malibu and Zuma. And it's just one witness after another, just one after another, coming in and out of the water, and the rumors of this entrance being there, and suddenly now, finally, whether it is what we think it is or not, we have something to go on. We have something to research. We have something to look into, and that's the point that I think needs to be driven home.
Absolutely, and like I said, that was one of the things that I found using Google years ago. I didn't equate it with the UFO base. However, when my wife and I first started publishing Unicus magazine, we had people asking us if that was the name of an underwater base off the coast of Malibu. I don't know why. I really don't know. That seemed kind of bizarre to me, but having grown up there at Zuma Beach, I had seen them going up into the mountains right behind, just east of that plateau where the ruins are.
Right.
Which I sent you the link to, by the way.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. So anyway, like I said, I theorized something was going on there, but I couldn't really nail it down. The pictures you have are astonishing in the sense that the angle, I don't know how you managed to get that perspective.
Right.
But is that some new imagery? Because I haven't seen this before. It's not this level of clarity.
Right. This is some special software that we have that allows you to go beneath the surface of the ocean in Google. So that's what you're looking at. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. What you are looking at, those
hang
are...
on, Jimmy.
Yes.
Jimmy, if you've got that, there's some other locations that I will send to you of other buildings that are under the water in the Pacific that nobody wants to talk about.
Absolutely, and we're doing this now for a couple of other researchers that have done the same request. So seriously,
Okay.
Robert, I'd be more than happy. That is not a problem. So please do that. We're all in this together. We're all rolling that rock uphill. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, so send that to us. And what was I going to say? I had something. Oh, each one of the photographs that you're looking at is a screen capture straight off of Google with our software.
Recognize it.
Yeah, there's nothing there. We're trying to. We've got some images in high res that we're holding back that are pretty astonishing. But so we've got about 40 really good quality shots. And there's one other thing, Robert. Are you in front of your computer right now?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to look at picture number 9. Go to number 9 in the lower, or either 9 or 8. You take your pick. Okay. Which one are you opening?
7, 8, 9. Okay.
Open.
Yeah.
Which one are you opening?
Well, I can do any one of these. Which
Okay.
one do you suggest?
Okay. Well, open up 9, and then look directly behind to the left of the surface of the oval, And do you see those? It looks like another set of perfectly square doors, and there's 3 in this ridge right behind it. Now, and somebody pointed that out to me, and I went, wait, that looks a little bit too good. So then I went back, and they showed it to me in picture number 9. Now that you know what I'm pointing at, I'm talking about, now go to 8 and look right behind it. Look at that ridge, and look at these openings that are there. And then if you go to 7, now that you know what you're looking at, I wanted you to start with 1. Go to number 7 and look how it doesn't look right. They're square and it's at an angle. I would venture to guess. Now that's also about 700 feet below the surface. So that could be any. It's bizarre, but the more I've got some close-up pictures, we're gonna whip those out in over the next few days of that area too as well. I find that really, really fascinating. As great as this other stuff is, it looks like there's something else behind there. And if you go to picture number 6, again, that looks very, very strange. And the one last thing, Robert, before I let you go, and thank you, by the way, for calling in. That was fantastic. That we were talking about you about 15 minutes before the show. Okay, go back to picture number 9. And when you are looking at digital imagery, yes, pixelization and the way that optics react to a lens and lens flares, I get that, but we're not dealing with any of this. This is underwater. So, but pixelization here is I don't think is the issue. But if you go to picture number 9, I'm looking at these great marks and these tracks, and they go up and down the hill all the way back. Looks to me,
Jimmy.
Yes,
Jimmy. My understanding is those are the way. I believe that's an artifact from the actual sonar scan. I could be wrong, but I believe, because you see that in just about every Google image. It's you could double check on that, because I think that's what those are.
So which is good too, though. So if you are saying that the sonar scan is the double track, is that where the sonar scan is going?
I believe so.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
But I did send you the link to the ruins. If you haven't seen the megalithic monuments just east of where the plateau is, I think you'll be amazed at that.
Yeah, and I've said this now 5 times. Preston brought this up. He goes, dude, Robert Stanley's going to lose his mind. He's got the megalithic structures right there in the mountains, and here you called, and so it's called synchronicity, my friend.
Well, it's a small world. There's only a handful of people that know or care.
Oh, we lost you again, Robert.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Hey, Robert, thank you, and
my pleasure.
We'll be in touch tomorrow.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye, Jimmy. Jimmy and Preston. Take care.
Talk to you, man. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yeah, and that's the reaction that I've gotten from all the researchers on this. Everyone, anybody that you can name, put it out there. His mind has been blown about this. Thank you, Robert, for calling in. And there you go.
It's amazing. You know, I never would have gotten involved in this stuff if it wasn't for people like Robert Stanley, Bill Hamilton, and Ruffle, and a number of other researchers who were really here before me doing all this stuff. And so I just kind of took off with what they had already provided. And I mean, there's just so much. And I would also point out that the topography in this area, there is a whole lot of caves in all throughout the Santa Monica Mountains, Malibu, Topanga Canyon, Santa Monica. This whole area is just riddled with very, very large caves, mind you, not small ones.
Right. And there's one thing I would love to talk to Robert again about is the age of things. You know, with his structures that he has found up in the Santa Monica Mountains right there. Well, I guess that's Malibu. That's Malibu proper. What's the name of the mountains right there?
The Santa Monica Mountain Range.
I guess it is still Santa Monica, right?
It's one of the only transverse ranges in the United States, actually.
With Las Virgenes right? The canyon road, Malibu Canyon Road.
Right.
And when that cuts through the mountains right there, you drive through the tunnels and all the beautiful scenery. What are those mountains called?
That's the Santa Monica Mountains.
It's still the Santa Monica Mountains right there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I would like to talk to Robert about the age of those structures that are there and what he thinks, and possibly the age of this here too as well, and if they could be tied together.
It's possible.
There's the strange thing for me with this, Preston, when you look at the main picture that released, this famous one's called the Malibu side, the one that we always look at, that looks modern. That thing looks like it was built 10 years ago. It looks like any shopping mall that you would look at. It looks like any structure with pillars and a roof.
Oh, boy, what I would give to go down there.
Yeah, and check it out. So that part looks modern. It's just a shocking thing to see. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I mean, the pillars, that really clinches it. And the smooth surface. I mean, there's just so many different things about it that really make you go, huh.
Yeah. There's one of the things for me that's fascinating, and is this. When I look at picture number 7, the pillars are perfectly straight. Now, I don't know if that's some weird anomaly that in the other pictures sometimes they look a little crooked. I don't know if that's distortion from the water and the sonar and how it gets scanned. I don't know.
Right.
But when I look here at number 7, again, that looks just as unnatural and as man-made as anything that you can, possibly get.
What's also interesting is how the very center of it is extremely wide, as if there is room for a mother ship.
Well, no, I think that's exactly it. It's an entrance. It's a garage door.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's.
You can see the overhang. You can see inside this thing.
You can see the shadow from it on the seabed.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely fascinating to look at. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, so I'm going to get back to your pictures though, really quick. Oh, okay. We've got to get Steve Allen on the phone in about 10 minutes. So let's bang through your pictures really quick. Let's go to your picture number 2. It's of the beach. It's a cover of a book.
Right, by Wendell Stevens.
This is Wendell Stevens. Oh, yeah, there it is right there. Okay, got it.
Right. No, this is interesting because this involves a case in which a gentleman was taken to an underground base or an underwater base, and was not only taken to it, he was able to bring other people to it. So, I mean, these sort of things are all over the world. Florida, I think, is another real hot spot for this kind of activity. But if you go to picture number 3, this is the Canary Islands. And there's 4 pictures there. These are 2 separate incidences. And look how familiar, how very much the same they look, even though they're completely 2 separate incidents.
Right.
So it's just fascinating to me.
And Wendell Stevens has been talking about that for years, undersea USOs.
He was one of the pioneers of it.
Whoever's calling, I'm letting you know right now, I don't pick up anything that says no phone number. So turn it off, give me your name and caller ID. Otherwise, you don't come on this show. And that's the way it is. Just in case, man, because I'd love to call somebody back. Man, what are you doing calling here? Just warning you right now. You don't want to do that. Okay. Let's go to we can kind of jump ahead. No, let's just go in order. Okay, so let's go to this picture number 3. Oh, that's from the Canary Islands, right?
Right.
Okay, let's go to picture number 4.
Yeah, this was sent to me by a gentleman who had some questions about it. He had taken a number of pictures of the sunset, and only one showed this round disc in it. And it's a little hard to see, but if you look closely, it's right there in the center, and it's not quite perfectly round. And I'm wondering, is this an effect of the iris or something like that? But it doesn't appear to be.
It's got an edge.
Yeah, it looks like a real perfectly round, flat, saucer-shaped object.
And there's a line around the inside edge, too, as well.
Right. And this is right near the coast, right on the beach, really. And he saw nothing. But my first question to him was, have you had any UFO experiences in your life? And yes, he had all the red flags of someone who's an abductee.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Was this digital or is this on film?
This, I believe, was a digital camera.
Okay. Yeah, strange picture.
But I sent it off to a few photographic experts, and they couldn't make anything of it.
No, there's no pixelization around the edges. It doesn't look like it was photoshopped in.
It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, it is. That's an incredible shot. That's an absolutely incredible shot. it takes somebody bold to present that because it looks a little too good. You know what I mean? It looks a little too good and too crazy, but it doesn't look faked on the other side too as well. That's an incredible shot.
No, he does not want to go public. He was really reluctant to talk about it really at all.
Right.
So he's definitely not seeking publicity or anything like that.
Now, I wanted to. I couldn't wait to get to this. I was going to publish this. It was funny that you sent it to me, so we didn't do it. But I got this from a few different people. So we're opening up the map now. Right smack dab in the middle of this grayed out oval area is the base.
Right. See, this, I knew that this is where the activity was. In this exact area was where all this stuff is coming. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty much know where this base is. I haven't seen it. I don't know much about it. I've talked to some people who I think were actually inside it, abducted.
Right.
I've gotten a number of abduction accounts from this area, and normally when someone's abducted, they're taken inside a UFO. You can kind of predict what they're going to say.
Right.
The rounded walls are laid out on a table and so on. Not in this area. I've got 3, 4, 5 accounts now. People who are abducted, and what do they see? Rock walls, a massive underground area. And this is piloted, or what I found really interesting is most of the people are describing not gray aliens, but you're what I would call the praying mantis type. So I don't know what that means, but it was consistent enough to make me go, well, that's kind of strange. Normally people see grays.
Right.
80%, I would say, 70-80% of the people I talk to describe some variation of the grays.
We're speaking to Preston Dennit. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And before I get into this map and what it means, I want to remind everybody about the contest that we're having for Contact in the Desert. And if you go over to jimmychurchradio.com, please scroll down. I want everybody to enter. That's a $400 4-day all-access pass to Contact in the Desert. So just go over to jimmychurchradio.com. Please, everybody, go and register. Get in there. That'll take you to the website. It says right there, this is the Fade to Black Contact in the Desert contest page. Fill out your information and enter. It's really cool. Okay, so with that, back to this map. Now, what's cool about this map is it lays out logistically exactly the lay of the land for California, showing Palmdale, Los Angeles, Catalina Island, Channel Islands, Ventura, where Santa Barbara is, and then Santa Monica, the national recreation area, that part, the Santa Monica Mountains, and that is the area that we're talking about all the way up. Camarillo is getting a little bit too far north, but if you drew an X through this and came up with the center point and then just went straight back, that's where this base is.
I have to say, the number of USO reports drop off sharply outside of this area.
That's right. And I was talking about that. That is one of the things that needs to be driven home for everybody that possibly has heard about this for the first time. The concentration, 90% of everything for the last 40 years has been right here in the center of everything at Point Doom in Malibu.
It's insane. I mean, one of my favorite reports, I didn't get to talk to this gentleman for any great length, but what he told me was like amazing. He was out there in a boat, and this was at the north end towards Santa Barbara. And he's seeing these whales, what he thought were whales, swimming under his boat. Not one, not two, dozens of them. He's like, wow, this is really strange. Then one came close. And he's like, oh, this is not a whale. This is an object. It was gray, it was round, and it came right up to his boat, moving swiftly. It was perfectly silent. That's when he realized, this isn't even, an animal. This is some sort of a craft. And so he realized, this is something that's beyond his experience completely. So, a lot of people are seeing this stuff. And I think, as as a UFO researcher, one maybe in 100 people report their sighting. So a lot of people are seeing this stuff.
Absolutely. And that's where this gray area here for everybody, that's why this is so important. And that is why the shaded area, why that got posted. Okay, so now moving on. Next shot. Oh, this is one of the more famous ones, and you and I have talked about this one before. So this is picture number 2 in the second row from the left, and above the sailboats. And there was more than one picture taken of this, right? Or is this the only one?
Of this particular incident, this is the only one that I know of.
Okay.
But there are a number of photographs like this where people have seen UFOs over the water. But I found this one interesting because it was a daylight photo for one thing. It was right over this boat. And I've got a number of people who have said this sort of thing. These UFOs come right over their boats. And not only over them, but under them. So these UFOs, these USOs are checking people out.
Right. And how close is this to the base?
This is right there.
Exactly.
This is right there at it. And you can see the inset of this little saucer-shaped craft. What's really funny is, this is just one UFO. A lot of the people I talk to see not one or two or three, but we're talking dozens or more. Bill Hamilton had a case right off Marina del Rey, which involved dozens of objects, and some were very large and some were small. So we got different shapes of different sizes of these objects.
Absolutely incredible.
They sometimes move in tandem. You see them under the water, and the ones above the water are moving in tandem with the ones under the water. So,
how about you yourself? Have you seen anything besides the one in Santa Monica? Have you been out on the beach and seen anything yourself out there?
I've seen some stuff.
Yeah.
Lights. Yeah. I'm a little skeptical, I have to tell you, because getting involved in UFO research was not good news for me. It kind of really flipped my world on edge and really made me a lot more skeptical of everything. I had to completely reevaluate everything. So now when I see a UFO, I'm like, what? I start going through all the things it could be.
I don't know what you had to reevaluate. How many books have you written, Preston?
I've written 15.
And you're skeptical. Okay. Now, this is one of my favorite photographs that is out there. And this is, tell us about this. This is the Boy Scout troops?
No, but it's very similar to this.
Very similar to the Boy Scout story on Catalina Island.
Right. Because how I first kind of wondered about this base is there was a wave of sightings over Topanga Canyon in 1992. And one of the a lot of people who saw this stuff on that one night on June 14th described multiple objects. I talked to one couple who lived high on the ridge, and they saw not 10 or 20 objects, not 30 or 40. They started counting them because there were so many coming up from below, and they counted 200 objects. Now, the husband, he's like, oh, no, I think maybe there was only 100, 150, which always makes me laugh because that's still way, way too many. And so they saw all these objects coming up out of the water and described them to me as oval and glowing and all this. Now, a couple of years later, here comes this photograph from a lady named Judy. This is actually brought out by Robert Stanley in his magazine Unicus. And this is just one of the photographs that was taken by this lady over Malibu. She saw these objects coming in from the coast, and it's exactly what this other couple saw. Not one or two oval objects, not three or four, but dozens of objects. So where are these objects coming from? This is how I started thinking about this. I'm like, my God, if there's hundreds of them, there's not a base. There is a parking lot down there for sure.
Exactly. And the title of this picture from the magazine cover says it all. This photo was taken in May of 1993 of 11 UFOs flying from Catalina Island toward Malibu.
Right? I mean, how do you explain this? I mean, and if it were just that one report, but no, it's not. There's always another report coming along of this type of thing.
I wonder if Robert saw that we were actually going to post this picture when he called in. Thank you, Robert. I know you're listening right now, but yeah, wow. Synchronicity, man. You got to love it. Hey, well, listen, we've got to get, you're going to hang out, right? You're going to hang out for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Because Steve Allen said so. So let's take a break. Let's when we come back, we will have Steve Allen on the air. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Great night. Live in the studio at Preston Dennit, talking about the Malibu deep underwater base that is flipping everybody out around the world, as it should. It looks like we've got us a smoking gun, folks. Fade to Black, the Thursday edition, Bell Gab. I'll be back right after this with Steve Allen. Stay with us.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Hey, this is Alan Johannes from the Vultures of Queens of the Stone Age. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Rock on.
Okay, Steve, I'm putting you on hold. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Damn. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. This is the Thursday edition. What a great show. Preston Dennit talking about the deep underwater base, the coast of Malibu. Robert Stanley called in. Who's next? I guess Ann Druffel. But better than that, we've got Steve Allen. After an historic sighting near Stevenville, Texas, of an up-close and personal UFO encounter on January 8th, 2008, private pilot Steve Allen's life was forever changed. The sighting had a profound impact on Allen's life. He now is on a quest to find out what those strange lights are all about, where they came from, and why they appeared over Stevenville, Texas, and why such events are consistently covered up. Even more mysteriously, similar lights have been appearing frequently around Stevenville for the next few months. And on October 23rd, 2008, the strange lights reappeared over a football game at Hico High School, alarming the crowd and bringing the football game to a halt. Incredible video every time I see that. Allen has made appearances on numerous radio and television programs, including CNN's Larry King Live, Fox News O'Reilly Factor, ABC's Primetime, Good Morning America, National Geographic Channel, Discovery, BBC, NPR, worldwide syndicated radio shows like Coast to Coast, and this one right here. Most recently, at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., Allen testified at the citizen hearing on disclosure before a panel of 6 former members of Congress during 5 days of testimony on the need for disclosure of the truth on UFOs and extraterrestrials. I would like to welcome to the program right now. It's an honor. Steve, are you with us, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
No, thank you. Thank you. Steve, I know your life has changed, and you have since that night, January 8th in 2008. But now that you've, put some years behind you, and you have listened to other people's testimony and eyewitness accounts, you've become kind of a researcher yourself. And not only that, but you're somebody that we turn to with questions. You've got to become an expert yourself. So when you look at these new Malibu pictures, what do you think about this little discovery off the coast of California?
It's very impressive. It's I'm almost speechless over it. I think you really may have found the smoking gun. And we know it's out there. It's just a matter of where and when in pictures and evidence, which that I think you may be onto something.
Yeah, and in talking to, and we've been talking about this all night, and I know you've been listening to the show, but since we made the announcement on last Wednesday's show, we put it out there last Tuesday. We made the discovery on Monday, so it's barely been, a little over a week. But I have talked to at least a couple of dozen researchers and people out there that know what to look for and what they have been hoping for, over all of these years. And to finally see something like this, I think the word is speechless and amazed, time and time again. And that just makes me feel good for everybody because we've all wanted this.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that leaves me speechless, but this is one of them. Somebody needs to get out there with some cameras, underwater cameras, and drop them on a cable or whatever, however that works, and get some more pictures of whatever it is. It's spectacular. Is what it is.
Yeah, thank you.
thrust into the UFO community, like you said, back in 2008. And the more I got into it, the more questions I have. It's like a giant puzzle. You get a few little pieces here and there, and some of them looks like they may fit, and then all of a sudden they don't fit. And it's very intriguing what's going on. I do have a quest to find out what it was. My main quest is we're sitting here running our planet into the ground, and they have the technology to prevent us from sending $100 bill per person overseas for the oil barons over there. So, and we're not going to mention any names or nationalities, but they're, we all know who gets the money.
Yeah, that is so very true. And the machine that has been set up for oil, we talk about this all the time, not only, with, friends and guests like you, but it's just such an obvious thing. Oh, by the way, Preston Dennit is here with us. Say hi to Preston.
Hey, Preston, how you doing today?
I muted him. I'm sorry. Is the back when everything was set up with oil and it was figured out, or they thought that they had figured out that oil was going to last forever. So let's just base everything on that and let's make a ton of money. And here we are all these years later finding out that A, the oil's not going to last forever. Now we've got ourselves backed into a corner. We don't have a way to really fix things really quickly. And B, the answers right there for energy is there and it's in front of us, but they don't have a way of making money off of it. So until they figure out a way to make money off of free energy and whatever's making these craft fly around, then we're kind of stuck. And I don't think I don't think anything's going to happen. You and I and Preston and the citizens hearing, we could scream forever, but until we run out of oil, there's a problem.
Seems like it all stems from greed, power, and money.
That's exactly it. That's exactly, you know what they say, Steve, and I'm sure they say this in Texas. Follow the money. That's all you got to do is follow the money.
Exactly.
Now, I know, please do me the favor of taking us back to that extraordinary evening and just, tell us, first off, what was your mood like before you saw what you saw? What was the evening? What was the day like, leading up to that? And then tell me how it changed.
Okay. It had been an extremely cold winter in Texas here, and it was the first decent day that we had in quite some time. One of my friends called me at work and says, "Hey, come on out to the place this afternoon. We're going to have a little campfire / bonfire up on top of the hill and just have a little fellowship and enjoy the afternoon and come on over." And I said, "Okay, I'll be there." And they happen to live in a dry county where there's no beer. So they asked me to get them some beer and bring to them, which I did. And I had none until this happened afterwards, I might add. So I pull up on location, and it was afternoon time. It was about 6:00 p.m., and the sun had just set, but it was still twilight. You could still see real good. I mean, it was, you just see. As I stepped out of my pickup, I got out and I lit my cigar. I dropped it, and as I bent over to pick it up, I noticed some extremely bright lights coming at us at a very high rate of speed. It looked like they was coming directly at us. And so I fixated on those, and my two friends that was with me, they saw what I was looking at. And I said, "Are you guys seeing this?" And they said, "Yes, we are." And as we watched it, there was just a real high intensity, bright lights of a craft. There was no sound or anything. You couldn't see the craft. You could only see the lights of the perimeter of it. It was all headed in the same heading, same altitude, same course, same speed. So it led me to believe it was one vehicle. It looked to be about a half a mile wide, and about a mile long. It was extremely large.
How are you able, Steve, to determine the size? Were you looking like to your left and to your right, and you know how big the city is, and
well, we was out in the country, and I fly that area quite a bit with my airplane. It's only like 4 or 5 miles from the airport, so I'm real familiar with cross sections of the roads. You know that it's got a cross section road every mile, and as the craft got closer, it was about 2,500 foot above ground level, AGL, right in front of us, and probably 2,000 foot over. So it wasn't a streak out in the sky or out in the universe. This was right there at us. As it came by, we could see the tail of it, and it had 7 lights flashing at no particular intervals, and it was rapidly deaccelerating, I might add. I estimated it to be going several thousand miles an hour. It was just extremely fast because I saw it come from one side of the horizon to the other in just a matter of moments at this low altitude.
And as a pilot, had you ever seen anything like that moving at that speed?
Nothing would fly that we have that I know of that would fly that fast.
How long have you been a pilot? Steve, you've been a pilot almost your whole life, right?
My dad sat me in the control seat there, or the jump seat, at 3 years old.
Right.
And I flew with him off and on all my life, and then I started formal training in 76.
Yeah, so I wanted
relatively new to it.
Yeah, I wanted everybody to understand when I say your whole life, I mean, you've been flying, you know, other kids were out goofing around with G.I. Joes, and your dad was letting you take the stick at 3, 4 years old. That's insane. Okay, so you're guessing now a mile wide, traveling at a couple of thousand miles an hour. Okay, so take it from there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, about a half a mile wide and about a mile long. So as it comes past us, you could see 7 lights in the back of it, real high, bright intensity lights, like a magnesium flare, unlike anything I'd ever seen. Rapidly deaccelerating, so it comes to what I thought was a complete stop over Stevenville, Texas. And the lights reconfigured to an arch shape for just a moment, and then they reconfigured to a vertical shape, and then in the split second they split, and then there was 2 sets of 7 lights, and then a moment or so later they burst into a flame. And it looked like the flame was contained in a rectangle box. This is large, real large. I mean, you almost had to pinch yourself, say, are we seeing this, or, you know, what is going on? And
well, at this point, are you thinking it was a UFO?
After it burst into a flame, it just simply disappeared. Boom, it's gone. It didn't streak off or anything. It was gone.
Steve, Preston had a question for you.
Yeah. I'm wondering what's going through your mind at this point. I mean, had you seen UFOs prior to this, and were you thinking, oh, this is a UFO or military, or what were you thinking?
To that point, I had never seen a UFO. I knew it wasn't military because it was just incredibly fast and it made no noise, didn't even make any wind noise. You know, anything traveling that fast would create a wind vortex of some sort, or a wind noise, and so it was totally silent. So I didn't think it was. I knew we was witnessing a historic event of epic proportion. I wanted to remember every detail is just as good as I could, you know, as far as time goes and altitude and headings and what we was seeing. And I really didn't think that much. When the ship came past us, though, I had the strangest feeling that they knew that I was there and I was watching them and they was watching me. It was almost like a mind merge of some sort. I've never had that feeling before or after. I don't know if it has any meaning or what or not. I just don't know. There's, like I said, there's a lot more questions than answers in this whole equation.
Oh, I've heard that exact description so many times from other people, where they feel like who's ever inside this craft knows that they're being observed and are kind of putting on a display, or doing it on purpose.
Is that how you felt? Is that how you felt, Steve?
Exactly. I felt like they was more or less showing themselves to us. I felt like I was blessed in getting to see this event or whatever it was. After it disappeared, though, back to the story, one of the gentlemen that was there, which happens to be a mailman, he delivers on mail. He's a rural mail carrier. He didn't say boo, goodbye, kiss my foot or nothing. He got in his car and just peeled out and took off. It flipped him out.
Right.
So my other buddy, we've known each other since the first grade. We looked at each other and we went down to his house to tell his wife about it. And she was in disbelief and says, I don't believe you guys. I'm going to call Lance, the mailman. And we invited her to go ahead and call him. So she picks up the phone and calls him, and he says, hurry up and get back outside. It's coming back. So we went back outside very rapidly, and sure enough, here it comes back coming back from Stevenville from the west going east this time. It had reversed course 180 degrees. But this time you could hear the roar of jets in the background. So if you counted about 3 or 4 seconds, here comes 2 F-16s on it in pursuit on its tail, and they had full afterburner on, and they was about 2,000 foot above ground level, literally rattled our windows. You know, you don't fly F-16s 600 or 700 miles an hour at ground level in a populated area very often. And we watched it as it went off towards the east, and it kind of split between, we have a nuclear power plant in Glen Rose, Texas, and we also have President Bush in Crawford, Texas, which he wasn't there at the time, but so it was headed off in that direction, and we watched it until they went out of sight. And at that point, I kind of got a little concerned. I thought, well, gee, if it's one of ours, why in the world would we be chasing it with vengeance like that? I mean, you could tell these jet jockeys was after it. I mean, they was in full pursuit. They had full afterburner on everything. The craft, when it came back by, what it didn't have the first time we saw it, it had 2 round, I guess you could, for lack of terminology, 2 round orbs, kind of a pinkish red. And I attribute that must be their propulsion system or their power plant. And they was having to, it was like a cat and mouse game, and obviously they had exponentially more technology than we'd ever thought about having, so they kind of held the F-16s at bay. The next morning, I called the airport to ask them what was going on, if they had heard anything, and they said, you know, we did hear the military traffic, which is very unusual that low and in our area. We are not very far away from a military operating area, but they do it way up at altitude, you know, never down that low in a populated area. They said, we'll call Fort Worth Tower and see if they have any reports or anything. So they called Fort Worth Tower. They called me back, and they said, that was strange conversation. They was not very forthcoming with, you know, information or the nice jovial selves they usually are.
Right.
And I said, that's strange, you know. Okay, so I called the newspaper. Here's where my first mistake comes in. I called the newspaper. They will ask if they could run a story on it, and they assigned me a reporter named Angela Joyner. So she questioned me within an inch of my life. I don't think a district attorney could ask that many questions, but she did. So, and she calls Carswell Air Force Base, which is a naval air station now in Fort Worth, and asked Major Carl Lewis about it. He says, oh, no, we didn't have any F-16s in the area. And she called me back and told me that, and I said, well, they did, and I saw them, and I know what they are.
Well, who was she? Was she buying their story, or did you feel like she was, you know, on your side of the fence?
Believe it or not, she was doing objective reporting, which you don't get that very often.
Right.
This is a good thing, because she called the major back and says, well, this pilot says he knows those was F-16s. He knows what they are, knows where they're at, everything. And he says, well, we think we may have figured it out. And she says, yeah, what was it? And she says, we think it was a reflection off of a high-altitude jet airliner. And so she calls me and tells me that. And I said, it was a reflection off of my shiny white ass.
Right.
Back and tells him that, and needless to say, that didn't go over real well with the military. So they quieted up for another day or so, and then they call back and says, okay, we've got it figured out. It was a refueling tanker. And so, of course, they call me and tell me that, the reporter does, Angela. And I said, you know, it sure could be a refueling tanker, but it's definitely not from around these parts. So, and she conveyed that message, and they was quiet for a few more days. And by now, here comes Larry King and brings 2 semi-truck pulls of camera equipment and people and crew and everything. And we did on location out there. And Larry is actually very interested in things. So he was basically on our side and believed what we had to say. And by now, the newspaper had come out, and here's where my mistake was. I said, just in case somebody had inadvertently taken a picture of the sunset, please put my phone number in there and have them call me. Next day at work, on January the 10th, this was, after the paper broke, I had phone call after phone call. We couldn't even conduct business at my company because all lines was lit up with people that had seen it and or seen something. And that's where I was thrust in the UFO community, I guess. So I'd ask them what they saw, what time they saw it, what their name was, and if they was willing to come forward or not. Out of all these people, there was business owners, farmers, ranchers, and here comes Leroy Gayton, which was a constable of Erath County. He called. He says, I can't say anything about that. He says, I'll tell you about it, but I can't go public with it. I'm an elected official, and chances are I wouldn't get elected next go around if this was to leak out. And I said, come on, Leroy, you're hanging me out here to drive by myself. You know, I need some help here.
Well, what kind of, Steve, what kind of community is Stevenville? I mean, everybody is, you know, are they in each other's business? Everybody's really close. Everybody knows what's going on. And you know what I mean?
No,
is it like
it's
that?
It's a little bit bigger than that. It's 20,000 population in the city limits, and then if you get out in the county in the rural area, there's probably another 50 to 100,000 people. So there's quite a few people down there. It's not sparsely populated, but there is. You know, there are some people that knows each other. I didn't know any of these people. I didn't know Leroy. I didn't know Angela. I didn't know anybody from that area.
Which was my question. Right. Well, and then what about the general attitude when it comes to something like this? Is it better, you know, left unsaid and kept it quiet so everybody can just, like, you know, not stir the pot and just, you know, raise your family, and let's not get this on national TV. We don't need Stevenville on the map, and we're cool with this. You know what I mean? Do you think the witnesses may be willing to talk to each other about it, but not necessarily to, you know, to the man and get it out there?
Well, I went home that night, and my wife could see that I was definitely rattled or pale or whatever, because I thought we may be in for a war of the worlds. Why would we be chasing something of ours, you know, with vengeance? And she begged me. She says, please don't say anything to anybody about this.
3Exactly.
And typical male, the next morning, my lips got to flapping like a hurricane in a breeze, you know. So the consensus of the people in the city and the county area, they all believed it because there were so many different people that saw it, you know, different. It was a mass sighting is what it was, and people from different areas. And at first they embraced it and welcomed it, and then it kind of become a little bit of a nuisance because there was quite a bit of media exposure and people everywhere doing interviews and everything, and it basically disrupted the town's sleepiness, I guess you could say, for lack of a better vocabulary. But they got weary of it quickly. Also, there was more sightings than that we had. It was pretty regular event. You could almost just go outside and see it, and it got to where people wouldn't even talk about it because it was like a normal day at the park. You know, it's just there. You know, unexplainable. A lot of people tried to tie it in with the Bible. And I mean, there was more theories and hypotheses than you could, it's like I said, it developed more questions than answers at the time. And thank goodness for two guys named Robert Powell and Glenn Schultz. They did a Freedom of Information Act for 6 different radar units, and they got it. You can't do that no more. We fixed that. But so they got 2.5 million pieces of data, and it took them. Glenn Schultz worked on the Lockerbie, Scotland crash, as a matter of fact, I believe. And so it's not that for lack of experience, they know what they're doing. So it took them several months to piece all this together.
Well, I want to back up real quick because I think I don't know if you mentioned this or got it past me, but didn't the Air Force, refresh my memory, didn't they come out like a week later and admit that they did scramble 4 F-16s over Stevenville?
Yes, 100% correct. On the 10th day, they came out and says they did a press release and says we did have 10 F-16s in the area. And so the reporter got me again and says, hey, look at this press release. What do you think about that? And I said, well, I told you those was F-16s. That's pretty obvious. What gets me, though, is, and I told her the same thing. I said, what gets me is it takes 100 people to make one of those things fly. And if you got 10 of them, that means there's 1,000 people somewhere just to get these things off the ground.
Right. And scrambling.
Exactly. And I don't know how many millions of dollars each one of them cost, but if I had hundreds of millions of dollars out there somewhere, I would know where it was and have it accounted for. So I made the rude or crude statement. They didn't know they had 10 F-16s in the area. I can tell you where my dog is at right now.
Right.
And so I don't think they appreciated that either. So, but I wasn't in business to make the government happy that week. So, nor now. But
were you able to? I don't think I've ever heard you answer this question. So indulge me. But were you able to make out any kind of crazy details of the craft? Were you that close? Was there anything that stands out for you? Was it smooth surface? Was there other things on it? Any undulations? What was it that you were looking at, or was it just moving too fast?
It's like I said, the craft was invisible. All we had was lights on the outer perimeter of it.
Right.
Now, there was a gentleman named Ricky Sarles, and it supposedly uncloaked itself over his head. He's kind of a cowboyish type guy, and he lives out in the woods, and he was out there deer hunting, and which is out of season that particular day as well, so we're not going to mention that fact. But anyway, he was out in the woods with his rifle, and it came over him and stopped, and he said it was a dull gray. It had no rivets or anything. He's a machinist by trade, so he's a nuts and bolts guy. And he said it was only 300 foot above his head when it stopped.
I remember his description of it. He tells a really good description of that whole day, but he looked straight. It was right above his head. I mean, it was centered above him. And I remember him saying it blacked out the sky. But go ahead, continue the story.
And Ricky told me, he says, he had told his friends at work, and they ridiculed him and all that. And he called me up out of that newspaper article, and he says, thank you. And I said, thank you for what? He says, well, my friends chunked me the newspaper down and says, looky here, and kind of vindicated him as well. So he was a little bit relieved that somebody else had seen it, and he really wasn't crazy. So he had a little sense of relief.
Did he see F-16s as well?
No, he did not. He didn't see any F-16s.
Okay.
The radar report come out, which everybody can see that. I think it's 82 or 86 page radar report. You can go to MUFON.com and Stevenville radar report. There it is. Like when I testified in front of the congressional citizens hearing last May, not this May, but May of 2013, I told the congressman that, people will lie, people will distort the truth, they'll forget. but you don't have to believe me. We have a radar report here.
That's right.
That shows the craft going 2,000 miles an hour in less than 10 seconds, slows down to 28 miles an hour, then reverse courses and goes back again at 1,900 miles an hour. Shows the two F-16s behind it. What we couldn't see, there was 4 F-16s on either side of it, flanking it, like they was trying to head it off at the pass or whatever. And I said, if the radar reports what it sees. It doesn't have a hidden agenda. All it reports is what it sees. And I said, you don't have to believe me. Here it is right here. So, that kind of adds a lot of credibility to our story. It wasn't anything that we dreamed up, and I don't know if you could dream up anything like that. So.
What happened next? After when I know that, well, it's the details better than I do, but when they finally had the radar reports, wasn't there some denial also about the accuracy of the reports, and the Air Force tried to backpedal?
I've never heard any inaccuracies out of the radar reports. These guys are very brilliant. They're
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that once they had the radar reports, then the Air Force tried to say something else about the reports, and it took Stanley and to say no. This is what we're saying is true. This is exactly right in the report itself.
Well, after the press release came out like I said, on about the 10th day, they shut up. They never said another word about anything that I knew of. And you could call and ask for Major Carl Lewis, and he would read you that report. Somebody had already got on him for even speaking with us, I would say. So he would read that press release verbatim to whomever called him. So,
right.
He had his wings clipped, I guess you could say.
Words
there, but it was
between. Oh, I'm sorry. We're kind of overlapping a little bit, but between that incident and the high school football game, which I think is one of the most intriguing, it's a standalone story in itself. But in between those two incidents, did anything else go down? Did you see anything else?
I didn't personally see anything else. There was quite a few other sightings, though, and especially in that particular area out there, I've kind of formed my own thoughts of why it comes and goes from out there. And it seems like it's been doing it for a long time. 1890 in Dublin, Texas. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Dublin Dr. Pepper, but there was a newspaper article in 1890 about it, and it had dumped something. The craft had flown over and dumped some debris of some sort out. And then there was a big cattle mutilation deal probably around 50 years ago, and they ridiculed the two men that had been running the ranch endlessly, until they just finally didn't say anything else about it. So I'm looking at our aeronautical charts, and it seems like that area, as you're flying your airplane, you adjust your compass every so often, to the magnetic grid of the Earth. And it seems like in that area is about the only place I can find on Earth, or in the United States anyway, that you set your magnetic compass to 0. So I've just a little piece of the puzzle. I feel like they come and go through that area because of that magnetic polarity or lack of it, I guess. I don't know. I really don't. It's just a hypothesis. The Japanese film crews have been down several times, and they wanted to set up all-night cameras and everything. And so they was questioning me what was the significance of Stevenville, Texas. And I said, well, it's the milk capital of the world. And they said, oh, well, that explains it. And they have real broken English. And I might add, I had a hard time conversing with them a little bit, but my Texan accent and their Japanese was not mixing real well. But so they said, well, that explains it. They like milk. And I'm thinking, how in the world do y'all know they like milk? And I didn't question them any further. But then I got to thinking about it. If you're zipping across the universe and you get thirsty for a milkshake, are you going to pull into the Dairy Queen or McDonald's? Well, neither one.
You're going to go to Stevensville, but I'm a Dairy Queen guy.
There you go. There you go.
I'm a Dairy Queen guy. Hey, you want me to really bum you out? This is the truth, Steve. There's no Dairy Queens in California.
Well,
isn't that bizarre? And I'm from the Midwest, and there's one thing that we don't have out here is Dairy Queen. And it's just it's a bummer. And you sit there and you say Dairy Queen, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to talk about it for a second. And you see, it's no big deal to you, Steve. You've got a Dairy Queen down the street. You probably got an A&W drive-in too. I got neither. We don't.
Oh gosh,
we don't have that stuff out here. Nobody.
Well, we'll have to fix that somehow.
But
for Federal Express, I'll get you a Blizzard and send it that way.
Oh man, what I would do. My wife and I were talking the other day. I said, "You have not lived until you've had a Dairy Queen chocolate dip cone. That's it. As simple as it is, it'll change your life, and it will." And but anyway, so but that's an interesting thought. Milk. And it took the Japanese to make that correlation. And before I let you answer that, did they have experience, the Japanese, with this milk connection themselves? I mean, how did they jump on that so quickly?
It seems like the Japanese and the Chinese are so far advanced of us as far as UFOlogy goes that it's hard to question them. But it makes sense, because if you'll think about what an alien looks like, or what we've been led to believe, they're kind of pale and gray and kind of sickly looking. Well, that can go with their, space travel and no milk or vitamin D to build you up and build your bones up, so that it all makes real good sense if you look at the big picture. You'd be unhealthy too if you was out zipping across the universe with no milk, So.
Right, or instant milk, the whole trip.
And here comes the cattle mutilations, and so who knows if they've got them a test tube cow, they don't know what they're going to have to clean up after that cow. That may be the reason they don't want to get in the cattle business, because there is some byproduct that comes out of the reverse side of these things. So.
I got to tell you, that is a fascinating theory. And I've never, I wonder what Linda Moulton, have you talked to Linda about this and told her about this?
Linda came, stayed a week with me. This was before all this theory of mine come out. Like I said, I've been researching it for years now and trying to make heads or tails, and I was fascinated. She's that big into the cattle mutilation deal. That's her her main bag. So, she's very intelligent and very well connected, and also Paula Harris is another woman that's in the UFO field that has talked to Corso and every other researcher in the world, Paul Hellyer. Just everybody. So it's a tight community, and they're all good people, and they're working. If they'd work together more, it would be better. Everybody's on their own agenda, and they carry different directions. And if they could all pool their resources and strengths and power, we might accidentally get to the bottom of it before we die of old age.
Well, that's true. I say it all the time, though. It is, everybody knows each other. Just like for Robert Stanley to call on this show a few minutes ago, and we're just talking about him earlier today, and he knows this next guy, everybody knows each other, and we're all in this together. And this little discovery that we've done in Malibu, you know what I mean? If it helps put the pieces together for all of us out there doing this research, great. And just, I totally agree with you. Linda's a mountain of knowledge. And Paola, are you kidding me? So what did Linda, let's back up. What did Linda say about the milk connection? I'm curious.
I haven't really discussed the milk connection with Linda. She had me out. She says there's a secret UFO base And I said, yeah, where at? And she kind of gave me the remote area of where it was. And I thought, well, gee, that's 10 miles from where I live. That's out in the sticks. You couldn't prove it by me. So I go get my airplane, and sure enough, here is 2 runways and some big buildings, and it looks kind of abandoned. And I'm not sure what it is. So I'm up at altitude, and I'm taking pictures, and I'm circling and circling. Pretty soon, I'm down real low at this thing, 500 foot. I've got some excellent pictures. So I interviewed some of the neighbors around there, which happened to be some of my real good friends I went to high school with. And they said, gee, General Dynamics used to have that. I said, oh, yeah? And what happened then? Well, it's a ground plane, and they set an F-16 up there, and they shoot radar at it and see if they can make it invisible or not. And then General Dynamics dropped their contract with this place, and Lockheed Martin picked it up. And they had it up until here recently, and there used to be a Humvee sitting there with a machine gun turret on top of it at the guard gate. And I found all this hard to believe, but all the neighbors told me the same story. And I said, well, did you ever hear anything? And they said, we'd hear a jet engine rev up, and then all of a sudden it just stopped. You wouldn't hear it. It was like, when a jet spools up and spools down, you can hear the whine of it as it accelerates or deaccelerates. So I thought that was kind of a strange event, that they'd hear these noises and had mock F-16s out there on the hill. And I've got some pictures of it. I sent them to Linda, and she was quite amazed at it. There's a giant hangar out there with no road going to it. Now, why would you have a giant hangar with no road going to the thing? And then it had 13 exhaust stacks, where they had an incinerator or whatever inside it. So they was burning something, with these stacks that went up above it. But the giant hangar had a door on it that was the size of a hangar, a big airplane hangar that would open or close. But then there's no road to go to it, though. So I thought, what's that for, and why would you have that? So
That's
some more questions with no answers.
Absolutely amazing. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We are speaking with Steve Allen about the Stevenville Light UFO incident in Texas. Also live in the studio, we have with us Preston Dennit. Okay, let's move forward to I'm a sports guy, and when this when this incident at the high school popped up, and it was absolutely, still to this day, is one of the craziest stories ever. And I don't know if you were there. Were you there at Hico?
No, I was not there, but I do have the newspaper, and I have interviewed several people that was there. It did make the front page of the newspaper. It's the Hico News Review. I'll have that copy next week when I speak Saturday in Los Angeles at Ciro International.
That's going to be great too, by the way. That's and I can't wait till you are here, and we'll give you a big, warm Los Angeles welcome. Daryl Sims was just here the other day, and it's kind of weird. It's the Texas flood coming through Los Angeles right now. We're really digging it out here.
Oh, you need the Jim Mars, and you'll be set.
I had him last night. How's that for you, man? Yeah, it's been a Texas week out here. It's been absolutely great. So anyway, take us back to that evening at it was your normal Friday Night Lights high school football game. Stadium is reasonably full, if not sold out, if I remember. And tell us what happens, because it's absolutely crazy. And if you haven't heard of the Hico high school football game, it's Hico, Hico, by the way, Hico. Go and look it up and Google it and check it out. It will freak you out. And this was real. It's one of those things. You have to agree, Steve. Why doesn't a UFO land on, flying saucer on the White House lawn or over the Super Bowl? Well, you know what? It did it here because Friday night in Texas is a serious night, and a high school game is very important, and it's packed. And what happens? Tell us what happens.
It is very serious. The people, there's lots of things go on over football games, but they was in the middle of the football game, and the craft pulled up over the stadium, and it was very low. Of course, it was nighttime, so in order for anybody to see it, it had to have been low. Pulled up over the stadium. The football players is the one that stopped the game because they was all looking at it. The refs was still in game mode. They was waiting for the ball to be hiked or whatever, and they noticed where everybody's attention was looking up in the air, in the sky. And they stopped the game briefly. It didn't get called off for the night or anything, but it did delay of the game for quite some time, and then the craft disappeared.
One of the incredible things about that is the quarterback, and you're right, the refs are looking at the line of scrimmage, they're waiting, they're set, they're focused on the ground, and they're watching the teams, and the quarterback backs up and he's looking up at the sky, and the refs are like, what's going on? And he and then everybody just stopped and looked. The refs were the last one to see it. And it's an incredible videotape to see. It is absolutely one of the craziest things ever. What did the craft look like?
Exactly. I wasn't there, so I didn't get to see it. I don't think it was what we saw. According to Stanton Freeman, what we saw was the mothership. And how he come to that conclusion, I'm not sure, but he is an expert in his field, being a nuclear physicist, and he's been on the UFO agenda for quite some time. So, but back to the Hico craft, it wasn't what we had seen. It was different. I don't have a good description for you. If I said anything, it wouldn't be truthful. So I'll bow out of that one. I didn't get the opportunity to see it. So.
I've just got this email that just came in. It says, I wonder if India holding cows sacred could be a passed down idea stemming from ancient peoples knowing that E.T. craved milk and wanting not to offend them or keep a stock around for them. That's interesting. See, I think this, yeah. I think this, I don't want to make light of this. I mean, it's funny if, it's funny. So milk, got milk. I get that. I see that. But it's interesting. I find it very, very interesting. We have very smart listeners on this program, Steve, as you can see, and
absolutely.
You say something like that, I get an email like this, and it just I'm scratching my head too. I find that absolutely fascinating. Okay, so what with the crowd now? How many people were at Hico that night? I mean, it's Friday night lights in Texas, so it was thousands, I'm sure.
Yeah, it would probably be up close to 1,000 or 1,500. I would say it's a antique stadium made out of rock. I mean, it's a historic. A lot of it's petrified wood and everything else. It's a neat old stadium, so it holds quite a few people. And they have some epic matches there as well. This is kind of the football center of the area.
So what happened next? Obviously, now we have 1,000, 1,500 witnesses, both the visiting team and the home team, and the newspaper. And I will say this, and again, I'm not making light of this. High school football in Texas is like basketball in Indiana. It's a way of life, and so that's a lot of witnesses out there. But not only that, but you've got the local reporters and the newspaper and all of that are there at the game, and they've got to report on the game the next day and talk about the game and what happened. What was the repercussion the next day, and what did the media have to say about this?
Oh, it stopped the game, needless to say. I mean, it was a game stopper, and the crowd, and as well as the spectators, everybody was fixated on it. Of course, the Stevenville incident had been going on for some time, so people was kind of, I'm not going to say burned out on the UFO deal, but it wasn't major. Is just pretty well business as usual, seemed like. If you can believe that or not. I've got the actual newspaper right here.
Oh, I could tell you were getting it out. I can tell you were getting it out. Thank you for that.
Yeah, had to refresh my brain there.
It's okay. You need some Dairy Queen. Somebody just tweeted, by the way. Somebody just tweeted, you can get a Tasty Freeze at Wiener Schnitzel, 99-cent coats on Monday.
That would help things. I can guarantee you that. This was from Thursday, October the 30th, 2008.
So about a week later, it was a week later after the game is when they finally reported on it in the paper?
Yes, well, the paper only comes out once a week, so that could be the...
I got you. Because the Hico incident was on the 23rd or the 20th, the 23rd of October. But I'm going by memory, so don't quote me, please.
Gotcha. And it just says sightings of an unidentified flying object was made the news across North Texas again last week, and several Hico people were among the witnesses this time. During the junior varsity football game at the Tiger Stadium, Thursday, October the 23rd, between 8 p.m. and 9:30 p.m., Hico sophomore Sonny Morrow was running the down marker chains of the visitor side of the field, looking toward the western sky. Suddenly, Morrow saw a large object in the sky above and beyond the stadium press box. Morrow said it was too dark to see what it was, but it had 2 rows of orange lights that appeared to be revolving in a stationary disc-shaped object. It was dark, but you could see 3 lights on one side, and when they went around you, you could see the other 3 lights. It was spinning like a frisbee, Morrow said. He watched the object for about 7 or 8. It's continued over here. Just a moment. Bear with me.
That's okay. And you know what? You're right about that. I remember now the down marker change. It was a side judge. Right. That's right. And then the quarterback backed up because the video that I've seen is the backside of the quarterback, facing the defense, if I'm making sense. And you can see the down markers on the opposite side of the field, and you see him stop. That's right. That's absolutely right. I'm going to post the video of this and get this up for everybody to check out, at least later, too, as well, during the replays. They're going to hear Steve and I talk about this, and it is a remarkable event. And like I said, it's very important to realize here, this isn't 1 or 2 people witnessing this. We're talking about a high school stadium on a Friday night in Texas, and they had a visitor, and it stopped the game. Lou Sheehan just posted, hey, Lou, how you doing? But Lou just posted, wouldn't an alien invasion at least get a timeout?
I think they already used all their timeouts.
Oh, that's too funny. But it
goes on to say that Morrow said the referee at the sideline also saw it. Asked, did you see that? And then the ref asked, did you see that the last play? Because both had been fixated on the UFO. They blew the whistle. Just a moment. They blew.
Oh, that's interesting. So
blew the whistle, and I had no change the down marker. And when I looked back, it was all gone.
So a delay of game penalty, possibly, huh? Now that's interesting. I think that's what the ref was insinuating. You guys want to watch the UFO, or do you want to play football? And yeah, that's an interesting quote from the ref. It's a fascinating videotape.
Here's what the military says. Air Force officials from the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base in Fort Worth said there had been 7 F-16s from the 457th Fighter Squadron in the Brownwood area for training operations that evening.
Sure.
Of October 23rd. That's what gets me. They try to just simply explain it away instead of asking the question, saying, hey, what did you see? What do you think it was? Or, just any intelligence.
Right. It's an insult.
Questioning, they simply try to explain it away with a reflection off of a high-altitude jet airliner or a refueling tanker or some swamp gas or whatever. They come up with more crazy explanations, and I don't know.
Well, I say it on this show at least once a week, Steve. I'm still waiting to see my first swamp gas. I really want to know what it really looks like. I mean, I'm waiting. I'm 50 years old. I ain't seen my swamp gas yet. And it seems, and it seems like there's a lot of swamp gas going around between 1940 and 1969 at the close of Blue Book. Everything was swamp gas. And I ain't ever seen. Hey, Steve, you ever see swamp gas in Stevenville?
None up here, and I've seen it in Louisiana, and it doesn't resemble anything you couldn't make it into a UFO or a spacecraft any way, form, or fashion. I mean, it's more of a fog, if anything. That's how I would describe swamp gas as.
When Joyner was talking to the Air Force about the original sighting for you back in January of 2008, and they come back to her, did they know that the witness that she was talking to was a certified pilot? Did they know that at the time?
No,
they were just talking to a reporter, right?
Thank goodness, yes. They was just talking to a reporter, and she left. She pretty well left as far as the details and my name out of the mixture. It's like I said, she was doing objective reporting. And I might add, as this thing progressed a month or two down the road, they fired her from her reporting job, and ironically enough, the newspaper is called Empire Tribune, E.T., Stephenville Empire Tribune. So they fired her, they confiscated her computer, and packed her desk up and put it in a box, and when she showed up one morning, here's what you get.
And when they came at her with the tanker explanation, and then she turns around and tells you tanker, they didn't know you were a pilot. I'm sure if they knew that you were a pilot, they wouldn't have come at you with the tanker explanation. They just thought you were just somebody. But did you just go, come on, seriously?
As well as and you don't refuel tankers at 2,000. Your jet following a tanker, you don't do that at 2,000 foot. You're up in the upper atmosphere there, needless to say, to where there's
no turbulence,
no congestion or turbulence,
right?
And everything. It's just much smoother. It's hard to hook up if you're down here bouncing around in the wind. So
now after Larry King comes to town, now the man knows who you are. Did you have any experiences with any Air Force personnel or that you could or could not identify? Did you get questioned? Were you told anything, anything strange? Any weird vans out in front of the house? What was the experience like after that?
I had one slightly strange experience. A colonel called me one night and talked to me an hour and 45 minutes. That's all he said. He says, I'm a colonel with the Air Force, and you have really stirred it up, and we don't know what to do about you. And I said, well, what do you think you ought to do about me? And he says, well, we came to the conclusion, and it's good. And I said, yeah, what's that? And he says, well, you only know what you saw, and that's it. You don't know anything. And I said, well, that's true. I really don't know anything other than what I saw. And he says, plus, he says, you're out there right now. He says, you're front and center on the newspapers and television. And if something were to happen to you right now, it sure wouldn't look very good now, would it? I said, no. And he more or less blessed my experience, and I didn't have. Now, Ricky Sarles had some threats and had some strange military hardware left around his house, and also some black helicopters floating around in his area. That's his own personal story or problem or whatever you'd like to call it. But no, I didn't ever have any negative experience at all other than that colonel calling me. Like I said, I was blessed. I've got to talk to some very interesting people. I had Mother's Day last year with Edgar Mitchell out there, the sixth man on the moon in Florida.
Right on.
Stayed the whole day. They catered in for us. Quite the compelling experience, and he has some stories to tell you. He knows, obviously. And so anyway, I've met interesting people like him, Paul Hellyer, the ex-defense minister of Canada, Nick Pope, ex-defense minister of the UK over there, and he lives in Tucson now, I think. So I've had the pleasure of meeting some very interesting people. And as far as UFO nuts, I haven't found one. I haven't talked to one. Everybody is genuinely interested in what's going on. The truth's out there, and I think we can handle it if they would just tell us what it is.
How has it the events changed your life? Now, I know that you're speaking this Saturday, and I'll be there, and I don't, but how has it changed you? Do you feel different? Has it been a positive experience for you? And not only that, and please answer that, but what about, everybody that you work with in your family, relationships wise, is everything cool?
Many questions at once there. It has been a very positive experience from the word go. I've enjoyed it. It's just made me realize that how sheltered we are, I guess, or how the government tries to shelter us from our own selves, I guess. I don't know. And that's back to the Colonel deal. He says, if the public only knew, it could cause a collapse in civilization. And I said, yeah, what part would collapse? And he says, it could change the stock market. It can change the way people think about religion. He says it would basically cause panic in the streets. And I said, well, I'd have to see that to believe it. I'm talking back to him like you and I are talking right now. I have to see that to believe it. I said, people are pretty resilient. They can take a lot. If you just pitch it to them, what they can't take is getting lied to for a long time. And then all of a sudden, oh, here's your new story. Now you're going to have to believe this.
Bingo.
So, they'll have to unexplain their explanations for the past 50 or 60 years. So, and that may be part of the citizens hearing. They may have to offer immunity to people, that has actually covered things up and lied and whatever, So it would be complex to come out right now and say, okay, here's what we have. So there's a lot of thought that would have to go into that before disclosure could happen.
Well, you bring up a great point, though, and going back to the Hico High School game, and not to kick a dead horse, but when you talk about, that it comes up so often. Well, why don't they land in New York City? Why don't they land at the White House? Why? Well, here you have an event like that over a high school football game with thousands of witnesses, and that doesn't motivate the government. They're still silent, and that's fascinating to me. And what everybody in the stands, they've seen what they've seen, but if then they know that they're being lied to. If you don't come forward and say, okay, all right, it could have been, give us some of that. You know what I'm saying, Steve? Just, hey, okay, well, it might have been, but don't say it didn't happen because you have,
it goes back to my original statement, that greed, power, and money. They're going to keep control of it as long as they can. They need to keep their horse pinned up until it just literally escapes, and if enough people come forward and I'm dealing with 2 or 3 people right now that deals with the crafts and the people. And it's just such a compelling story. It causes me to have lack of sleep. I didn't sleep for the first 2 weeks after that, and it didn't get much better since then, 6 years down the road. So just some of the things that I've been told, and these are very credible people, and they work for the government, and I'm not going to say which alphabet soup guys they are, but they are. And they don't have it in their DNA to lie to you. They're just straight up and down. They don't have much of a personality, and it's as a matter of fact, here's what we do, and here's what's going on, and here's where it's at.
Well,
and perhaps I'll get to touch base a little bit of that next Saturday night too.
I can't wait to get out there and see. But before I let you go,
yes, sir.
When you hear. Before the incident, before everything, turned everything around back in 2008, what did you think about people that said that they have seen something or maybe abducted? Did you think they were crazy? Did you, were you just like, come on, stop? Was that your attitude before your sighting?
No, my attitude before the sighting. I've always believed in UFOs. I'd never seen one. You'd have to be very narrow-minded with all the millions of galaxies and universes that we're in. Come on, people. You know, there's
Right.
got to be something or somebody out there. Some of the species we're dealing with right now is 70,000 years advanced.
Oh, at least. You're exactly right. Well, I wish everybody, I wish my neighbors had an open mind, and people that I encounter, on the street, that everybody had an open mind like that. But it takes an experience of seeing something to open your mind up, because now I know when you hear somebody say or talk to you about an experience, you listen to them a bit differently, don't you? And you have to.
Absolutely. As James Fox's movie says, is seeing is believing.
That's exactly because when I've never been abducted. I'm not saying anything like that. I have seen 3 little incidents up in the sky. One I photographed. Another one, my wife was with me. The first incident, I had 3 other friends with me. And the last incident, I was standing in the middle of a Honda dealership in the parking lot amongst all the new cars with a bunch of Honda salesmen, the blue shirt guys, the helpful Honda dudes. And this was just maybe a year ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. And we saw something in the middle of the day. And I still can't believe we didn't videotape that. All those salesmen standing around with, cell phones and nobody thought to videotape. But nonetheless, I've had those 3 experiences. But the one experience that stands out for me is when I had this stupid 10-minute episode of sleep paralysis. And I woke up and I felt something looking at me. Now, it's never happened since, and I wasn't abducted or nothing like that. But I went through the terror of what that entails. So when somebody tells me a story that's like that, the truth is in the details. And I know what happened to me. So you have to have an open mind and listen to them, because if it happened to you, then it could have happened to somebody else. Now, where it went from there with somebody else's story, that's different. With me, I had my little, 10, 15 minutes of paralysis in the bed in the dark, and there was something in the room with me. I know that there was. I couldn't move my head and I couldn't see them, but I was freaked out and I couldn't breathe, and it was horrible. So when somebody tells you about an experience like that, you have to have an open mind. You have to listen to them, because seeing is believing, just like you're saying, Steve. Steve, are you still with it? Yeah. Are you okay?
You left me speechless again. I digest all that.
Anybody from Texas that's left speechless leaves me speechless, to be honest with you.
You're doing a good job out there, Jimmy. I tell you, you keep up the good work. I'm very confident that you guys are on to something off of the Malibu deal, and that could be. That could upset some things. I have a feeling. So.
Yeah, it's headed that way. And, by the time you get out here next week, and it's coming up on us pretty quick. Today's the 22nd, so you're going to be out here in 9 days. So by the time you get out here, maybe we'll have something more to sit down and talk about. But I'll see you when you get in town, and I'm looking forward to it. Yvonne always puts on a good show. And it's May 31st, and as always, we'll have the links up on the website, and all the information is there, and we'll see you out there. It's at the Culver City Veterans Memorial Complex from 7 to 10:30, and it's always a good time. Yvonne puts on a good show, so I look forward to seeing you, and you have a good night and have a great weekend.
Good deal. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Say good night to Preston.
Good night, Preston. Good night, John Boy.
Good night.
Good night, Steve. Have a great weekend.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that's what I'm talking about.
Fascinating stuff.
Fascinating. And that, what do you think about that, Preston?
Well,
it's so documented.
It's typical of the Air Force. This is what comes to my mind is this is just typical of how they deal with the whole UFO situation. First of all, it shows that they're not ours. If they're chasing this thing around, obviously this is not our craft.
Exactly.
And second of all, I think they know what it is. And this is why they're releasing these ridiculous explanations, these contradictory explanations. They're not trying to explain it at all. They're not trying to investigate it. They're only interested in one thing. They want it to go away. They want it to be debunked. They don't want people to talk about it.
Right. No, that's exactly it.
What does that mean? I mean, why would they do that? Because they're in the know.
Right. They want it to be the Venus Morning Star. They want it to be swamp gas. They want it to be whatever excuse that you can do, but they want it debunked.
Exactly.
They don't want the truth out.
And the UFOs are not going to take it. This is why they're hovering right over the football game. They're going to be seen whether the Air Force wants it or not.
Right. Here's a question for you, Preston. Oh, thank you, Steve. By the way, if you're listening, that was absolutely amazing. It has been a Texas week here. It's just kind of weird. Jim Mars last night, Steve tonight, Daryl Sims 2 nights ago. And, it's been the Texas invasion, man.
Texas is huge on UFOs. I think it's the third most in terms of number of reports.
Right.
They're right up there at the top. California, Washington, and Texas.
Trip on this. Our listenership, and I look at the matrices and the demographics every single night after the show, and I look, and this is how it rates in the United States. I look at the map. The United States is about half of our listeners, 50%. The rest come from around the world. Okay,
Right.
So 50% are in the United States. About out of that 50%, about 50% is West Coast. Okay, it's a big chunk, but about 25% is Texas. It is, and then New York is like New York and the West Coast or the East Coast down into Florida. That's about the other 25%. Everything else is kind of spread across. But Texas is a force, man. First off, it's big. I mean, it's just a big state, but it is a large part of this audience comes from Texas, and right now they're listening and they know, and
Yeah.
I gotta say, man, Texas is no joke. Now, and then out of that, then we have Canada and the UK are kind of fighting for international superiority as far as listenerships go. And so it's probably, I don't know, maybe 5% each of our total listenership. It's a large amount of people in Canada and the UK. But then what's really crazy is this. Netherlands, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Belgium, Germany, that whole little pocket of Northern Europe is insane. I get more email.
Is that right?
I get more email and more comments about this show live. Think about how many hours difference. They're listening to the show right now. It's insane. And then you got to throw in Australia and New Zealand. It's incredible how many people listen to this show right now. If I ask somebody to send me an email right now from Australia, bing, it'll pop up. Right now, somebody in Australia send me an email. Right now, it'll get through the producers. Just put in the subject line, hello from Australia. Right now, do it. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. It'll take 10 seconds. It's a trip.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
a bit.
it's
It
fascinating to me. It's absolutely. I'm humbled. I'm completely humbled.
One of my books was actually translated into Icelandic.
Yes,
so
I know that.
That's a tiny little country.
Yeah.
So obviously there's interest there as well.
Well, and you can only speak Icelandic in Iceland.
Yeah, I know how to say extraterrestrial visitations. Gestir utan ergainum.
Nice.
That's my limit of Icelandic.
Nice. Oh man. Okay. So anyway, while I'm waiting for that email to come in, and it will, and I'm serious. It's fascinating to me. Is this got a question that just came in? I heard this is from Michael Keene. I heard aliens and UFOs are demons. What's your idea on this? Thank you, Mike. That's a great question. What's your take on that?
Well, I had to research this because I kept getting this question. I researched demonology, possession, the whole deal. And no, they're not demons. This is a very sensitive subject for people. I think there's a tendency to demonify or deify things we don't understand, place them on one end of the spectrum or the other.
Right.
Are they angels? Are they demons?
Right.
We don't know. I think it's easier to demonify humanity. I mean, certainly our type of behavior is much more evil and sadistic than anything we're getting from the ETs.
I think you have to flip it over, though. This is my take on that, and I've thought about it a lot. It's not that demons and angels are UFOs. Okay, it's the opposite. UFOs are perceived as demons and angels. That's, I think, is what people have thought over the years. Angels in the sky. Hey, that would make sense. A demon and an evil causing alien 2,000 years ago, and causing trouble think about this, in the village. You've got a village somewhere out somewhere, right. And the village elder, the aliens, ET is causing trouble in the village, maybe stealing cows for milk. Okay? Causing trouble. Eyewitnesses, they're seeing this. Well, you got to keep control of the town. Think about what I'm saying. So the elders get together and they're like, hey, man, we're about to lose control here. We've got to tell our people something. Oh, tell them it's God.
Right.
Tell them it's the devil. Tell them it's angels. And then you go back to the town. It's cool. That's the devil. Just pay him. Oh, okay. You can't tell them it's somebody from a star. You can't tell them that, even if the elders do know or don't. But that's where the connection probably came from, because back then you blamed everything.
All right. I mean, people have tried to link fairies to UFOs, and I mean, there are similarities. Don't get me wrong, but if you look into the whole demonic phenomena, it's a separate phenomena. I think that there is definitely some evidence to support demons and what they do to people, but it's not connected to UFOs in any strong way that I can find. I mean, you can connect Bigfoot and UFOs, but it's a very, very loose connection. And so that's the kind of thing we're dealing with here. These are separate phenomena.
How about an email from the UK that just came in? But it's absolutely fascinating, the listenership around the world. So I've always thought, though, with the explanation to what people were seeing in the skies back then, and possibly something not from this earth walking around, on the fringes of a village or whatever, some type of visitation, they had to almost undoubtedly make a religious connection to it, because that's the only thing that would make sense.
Right. Well, the idea of ETs wasn't even around.
That's what I'm saying. To the
all.
Village, everything was blamed on God. Oh man, we don't have crops this year. We don't have rain. Oh, God said it. Right. Oh, okay. So then let's pray to God. Okay, let's do that. And you got to keep order in the masses somehow. And so everything was, the excuses were made. And I understand why. You can't have anarchy. You can't, you've got to keep everybody alive. You've got to have people reproducing and happy and eating and everything else.
Right.
That's the mission of the elders back then. I'm talking a long time ago. So if there was an ET visit, how are you going to explain that?
Well, it's curious because we know ETs. I mean, the evidence seems to show that they've been around for thousands of years. And we've got the cave paintings, we've got stuff in religious paintings, we've got all kinds of evidence that point to them being around for a very long time. Yet the idea of ETs and other planets really was not in the public consciousness at all until, about the turn of the century, when, H.G. Wells and Jules Verne they were the one who kickstarted it. And there was really no idea of aliens from other planets until, like 1920s, 1930s, 40s. That's when it really people started to wonder.
Well, who did the map? I'm brain freezing right now for the lack of a better word. But what was the name of the guy that did the original canals on Mars with the telescope?
Oh, Lowell.
Lowell.
Yeah.
In what, 1890?
Percival Lowell.
Yeah, Percival Lowell. Right. Lowell Observatory right here. And he's the one that said that there was life on Mars. So that was kind of like the beginning of the Martian heyday, if my mind serves me right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, was there any mention of Martians before then? No. H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds, that was right around. Somebody text me, somebody tweet me.
I think that was 1890s.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. So before then, how would you turn around and relate to E.T.?
They just called them astronomical phenomena or religious phenomena is where
they call them angels and demons.
Exactly.
That's my point. That's my point. I didn't set you up for that, but it's just that's kind of where I'm going with it. Going back then. Okay, so couple of other emails coming in. Follow this train of thought: cattle abductions and mutilations, human abductions, genetic manipulation, constant milk producing, highly intelligent labor species. Well done. You know what? I'm going to read that again. Follow this train of thought: cattle abductions and mutilations plus human abductions plus genetic manipulations equals constant milk producing, highly intelligent labor species.
Well,
think about it. And I'm not making light of this milk connection.
No, it's interesting.
It is interesting.
And we know that the genetic manipulation has been going on for quite some time. That's apparent in biblical writings and other writings. And certainly all cultures around the world have legends of star beings coming down and teaching them culture and things like this. But as far as cattle mutilations and animal mutilations, that's a relatively new phenomenon, or at least we weren't aware of it until around the the 60s or 70s, really at all.
Right. But it came out like a storm. Keith just said that the Lowell Observatory is in Flagstaff, Arizona, and he's right. Mount Low and the Mount Low Observatory were here in Pasadena on the top of Mount Low. And I got that confused. Okay. All right, Keith. Lowell Observatory. Too many L's, too many smart guys looking up at the stars at the turn of the century. But yeah, that's right. It's not Lowell here. It's Low, Mount Low. Have you ever been up there, by the way?
Not to Mount Low, to Lowell I have.
Oh, you've been to Lowell and Flagstaff?
Yeah, the whole crater and all that.
Sure. Yes. I've seen the crater, driven by it, but seen the signs. I've never driven out to it, though, and I know it's huge. Over here in Pasadena, as we're closing out the show, for anybody that's lived in Pasadena or knows this area in Southern California, for all of my Pasadena people out there, there's this really fascinating story that went on. There was this Professor Lowe, Lowe, and when you take Lake Avenue in Pasadena and you take it all the way up to the top of the hill where it ends, you turn left, and I think it's Foothill or whatever it is up at the base of the mountains. But it doesn't turn right. It's not a T-bone, okay? You turn to the right, it's all protected forest land, and it was owned by one of the Marx brothers, Groucho Marx or something, and their house is there. But that's not the point. So you can exit, park your car, and head up the hill. There's some various trails you can take. But they all of the trails, and I would love to get an email or a tweet right now to come in and go, Church, you're spot on the money, because it's a really cool place to go. So he had this vision, Professor Lowe, of putting up on the top of this hill there, which they named Mount Lowe, an observatory. So he gets this money together. He builds his house. He builds a servant's quarters, and he builds an observatory up there. And from the ground in Pasadena, back then the population was very minimal. It's nothing like what it is now. But at the top of the mountain, at the top of Lake Avenue, when you looked up, all you saw was these white structures. The observatory, his house, which was like a 3-story house, and the servant's quarters, which was as big as his house next door, and people that worked at the observatory and so forth. But he built it up there, and how he got the wood up and how he did everything, because there's no roads, there's nothing. You just got to go up the side of the hill. So he builds it, and they call it the White City, and it looked remarkable, and it was made of wood, painted white. Next to it, then he gets this brainiac idea. He's going to build a resort and a hotel. So he builds this bar called the Alpine Inn, and I'm not making any, this is excellent Pasadena history. And this is like,
all right.
Pasadena was founded in 1884. I know because I did the Pasadena Centennial poster. I drew it in 1984. Okay, so I got all this rich history on Pasadena. So they go and they build this, and they build the Alpine Inn, but then they needed to get people up there. There's no roads. There's nothing. It's miles up. It's a mountain. So they built an incline railway system.
Oh, wow.
That went straight up the side of the mountain, and the rail car is sideways. You know, it's not like this. It's like this. So it only goes up and down. So the seats are at an angle, the windows are at an angle, right? And that went up to the Alpine Inn, and they had a little hotel up there, and he built this resort. And then guess what happened? It burnt down.
Oh. Well,
the whole thing burned down. So back to my story. So when you go there now, you can hike up there, and you can go there right now. And when you go up there, you see all the foundation. You're miles above. You're so high up that you're looking down on Catalina Island. That's how high up you are. And you're looking down. Oh, really? I'm looking at this, Keith. Seriously? That's what I'm talking about. And I'll talk to you about this after the show, but that's what I'm talking about. And I am reading, by the way, is you're so high up, you're looking down on Catalina, and you're up there, and there's all the foundations to the houses and the observatory, the wheel system for the inclined train, the cable, all that. It's all up there, and it's totally trippy. And Professor Lowe, he had it going on there for a minute. Not Lowell, but Lowe. And that's my Lowe Observatory story for the evening. And there you go. How did I get off on that tangent? Oh, okay. Look, I've already got the producers are texting me now to probably change the subject. So, she just said the mail from Australia came through during my conversation. Hold on. Let's see it. There it is. Isn't that incredible? Hey, Jimmy. I just beamed over to you from the outback. But, you know, how cool is that? Hello from down under. And, again, thank you. And that's Billy. But, you know, that's trippy. And that's what I'm trying to say. Right now, you know, it's amazing. And it's humbling to think that is what's going on. And either somebody's staying up very late or getting up early, or it's in the middle of the day, or it's in the middle. But wherever around the world right now, you know, and it's really cool. It's absolutely humbling. Thank you for that. And I'm not going to say another. Should I say another country really quick? Okay, another one about milk, and we got another Angel and Demons. Great. The first message we received from space has got milk. I know, and that is from Brad. That's OG Brad. We have like 5 Brads that write into the show every day. But yeah, got milk. I'm serious about it. I don't want to make light of this. That is a weird connection.
Oh, why Stevensville? I mean, there is that question. Why?
What? No, you know what I used to think of the USO phenomenon until this discovery off of Malibu, the USO phenomenon. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy into it. I thought people were making it up. I really did. I you know, flying saucers coming from space. Okay, so but underwater, why? Why go across the universe and then cruise underwater? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. One, water could be very rare across the universe. That's the first thing. Maybe they need.
There's a lot of energy in water.
That's what I'm trying to say. So they need to replenish or do whatever, or maybe there's water on their planet and that's the way they get around. Whatever. I don't know. But I didn't buy into it. Now, it's the one thing that makes the most sense to me. It's a great place to hide. It is. Exactly. And if you've been coming here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before, man, think about that. Then there's reasons why they would be underwater. It's a million of them.
Well, there's no doubt they like water. We've known that for years and years, that they hover over small bodies of water. So there's been a lot of speculation that they do use water as fuel. That's not been proven, but they've been seen taking water out of lakes. We know that.
Well, you know, there were some reports at the turn of the century when the airship craze was going through, before there was airships. There was a couple of really cool stories about airships that were next to rivers and bodies of water with hoses coming out, sucking up the water to the airships. And I always thought that was really fascinating. And I thought that's what added credibility to the story, because it's a remark. When you In 1880, 1890, you've never seen a plane, never heard of a plane, never seen a balloon. There isn't any. There isn't any Zeppelins running around. There's nothing like that. There's no gas. There's no motors. There's no propellers. There's nothing like that. So you have nothing to relate your mind to anything, any kind of machines. You know, maybe some steam stuff going on in Paris or Chicago or, you know, downtown Detroit, some kind of industrial revolution, steel mill, steam action going on. But as far as airships go and propellers and engines and, you know, there's no cars on the street. You can't relate to anything. And so for somebody to say there was this thing, you know, floating and with hoses coming out of it into the water and they were sucking the water out of, that is a credible story.
Yeah, people thought they were from other countries. They didn't think other planets at that time.
Right.
Must be from Cuba or something.
Right. Yeah. Fascinating stories. Okay, another email just come in. Let's see. I think the Bible describes two races of aliens fighting over this world. Yes, and that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, I agree with that. So, yeah, they come in spacecraft. Think about it. One religion was set in motion, so the other group came and corrupted that religion. I won't point out those specific religions, is what the email says. But yeah, that's exactly right. I totally believe in that religious hypothesis.
Oh, there's no doubt. I had talked to one lady who was having repeated abductions. She's in her 60s. She's like, why are they still abducting me? But these ETs told her flat out, oh, we're responsible for a lot of what you call religious visitations. That was us. So flat out, they're saying they're taking responsibility for at least some of it.
When with all of your research over the years, did you have anybody? We got a quick call coming in. Oh, it's got to be at the end of the show. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to grab this because I'm in a grabbing calling mood. Let's go. Okay, you're live on the air right now. Fade to black. Who's calling? Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm a truck driver. I'm in Oklahoma right now. I would have texted you, but I can't text and drive, so I had to call. But hey, your underwater connection, dude.
We just lost you. We had you for a second.
You hear me now?
Okay, I got you now. What was your name, really quick?
Billy. And I'm a truck driver. I'm calling, and I'm sorry for the interference. But the underwater connection, hey, you guys you've already interviewed.
Oh, Billy, we've completely lost you now. And I heard the water connection thing. Well, I'll tell you what. Email me your thought, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. That's the first thing. Let's get that out of the way. Second, tomorrow night, give me a call at the front of the show. I've got your number. I'll pick up. All right, Billy, we got to roll. We got to get out of here tonight, but thank you for calling in. Yeah, that's the water connection. See, I'm telling you, USOs are real.
Oh, no doubt.
And one of the things, and thank you, everybody, for listening tonight. One of the things now that I have realized over the years when I hear people talk about USOs, now it takes a different, if you're going to lie, okay, if you're going to make something up, then you're going to make up the mothership and the lights and I saw it and I saw E.T. waving at me through the window, whatever, you're going to make something up. But the last thing you're going to, is create some kind of underwater. First off, it's kind of boring. It's not action-packed like something coming in. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
So, and so when I hear the USO, it's the one thing that actually makes me go, and I listen. And I listen to the descriptions. And when I see photographs of UFOs, USOs over the ocean, to me, it's some of the most compelling stuff. And it's not fantastic. It's not as fantastical as other stories, but it's what's believable to me.
Well, it's interesting. It's been largely ignored for a long time. I mean, there was Ivan Sanderson who wrote a little bit about it, but other than him, pretty much nobody touched the subject for years and years. So it's finally, it's getting the attention it deserves.
What have you got going on now, really quick, before I let you go? You got a new book coming out?
Oh, yeah, just completed UFOs over in Nevada. So
yeah,
some real interesting stuff about Area 51 that kind of blew my mind.
Right.
And working on another book about UFOs over Arizona, another book about encounters, and working on this underwater stuff. I got
a good story for you. There's this discovery off of Malibu.
Oh, yeah?
I think, man, I got some stuff for you. It's going to be a good book.
Oh.
I think it could be. I think you got something there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that.
Now, UFOs over Nevada, is it out?
No, it's not. It's due out later this year. But
Okay.
boy, I thought I knew about Area 51, and I thought I knew about what was going on and basically, around the world. But I have to tell you, every time I do these books, I'm like, wow, I'm blown away all over again. And I've been doing this for 20, 30 years.
Right.
Still, I just can't believe what's going on.
Are you doing any speaking right now? Are you? I know you just did a MUFON thing down in San Diego or Orange County.
Right. I just spoke about underwater UFO activity, Orange County. But often doing speaking.
When did you speak? I don't want to run this in the ground, but when did you speak in Orange County about underwater UFOs?
This was just last month, I believe it was.
It wasn't like last week when I could have called you and given you this information. It was actually before the discovery.
No, but when when you sent me that picture, I'm like, oh man, I could have used that. People would have been amazed. This is really some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is potentially. I mean, look, when is let's see here. Time. Yes. Okay. Everybody's doing the same thing. It's time to get out of here. So anyway, tomorrow night, Michael Tellinger in the house tomorrow night. So what I meant to say was the thing is with all of us when Hoagland came out with the Mars stuff, or when Lazar came out with his stuff, or when all of these certain like key things happen, we all wanted it to get to something, to become something tangible, so we could all say what you said. I told you, right. We were all hoping for that. Well, I think for now, for all of us out there, for all of the researchers and everybody that's been working at this for a long, long time, that maybe we have something finally that we can go, look, I told you so.
Yeah, it's all breaking open.
Yeah,
it really is. It's very, very exciting. I think that's why people are so interested in this subject, because this is really the potential to change the entire world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Preston. You're the man. You going to hang out for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, you might as well now. You've crossed the line. All right. Thank you, Preston Dennit. Thank you to Steve Allen for coming on the show earlier. Tomorrow night, Michael Tellinger, just talking about that. Next week, Joshua P. Warren. And the P's in there to separate him from other Joshua Warrens out there. There's a lot of imitators. But the real Joshua P. Warren's in next week. And Blake Cousins will be in on Thursday. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Spooky South Coast with Tim Weisberg and his shirt. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. The announcers are Steve Harder and Mark D. Kovar. Music is by Doug Aldrich. Show intros performed by Spaceboy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Be safe. See ya.